Trouble with myself, gotta cross that line. I made a promise not to come out of my shell till the proper time. I am not your enemy, though I'll take the blame consistently, 'cause I've got a problem with the way you bid farewell. But I guess it's fine if your light is fading out. Take a little from me, and I will light myself with gasoline.
What's up, everyone? We're back with another Season 2 bonus episode. This one is something totally different than I have ever done for this podcast before, as this episode will leave behind all of the political and spiritual discussion and focus just on music. More specifically, the music of Chris Lambert. Another something different is that you will hear lots of music in this episode, as I have inserted clips of the songs as we discuss them. Most people know of Chris as a podcaster, and from his well-deserved recognition for the creation of the Your Own Backyard podcast, but many don't realize that he has been writing, recording, and releasing his own music for much, much longer than that. Our conversation goes from his earliest ambitions as a songwriter right up to the new album he is currently working on today. And yes, I have been told that I will be given a sneak peek of that new album to share with all of you. This conversation ended up being much longer than either of us anticipated, so I decided to release it in 2 parts. So this week will just be part 1 and will take us up to 2008. Next week will take us the rest of the way. Chris has written in a vast spectrum of different musical genres, and it's fun to follow the progression of his musical journey. So if you like what you hear, go and buy Chris's music. You will find a good amount of it on his Bandcamp page. Alright, well, I really hope you enjoy this episode. Please send me feedback. Both loving and hateful are equally accepted at Why Can't We Talk About That at proton.me. Enjoy the conversation. I got your entire, like, at least from what I know. So, like, you blew my mind with some of the stuff you sent me. I was like, really? Dude, I never even heard of this. So this can be fun to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be almost like the Forrest Gump of my music. It's like, let's just start
right
historically from Elvis on to...
Yes, exactly. Right. It's going to be really, really fun. But I don't want it, I was thinking to myself, I don't want it to be like, did you ever see that skit? I'm sure you have, the Chris Farley show.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the one where he had Paul McCartney?
You remember when you play all those records dead backwards and it'd say, like, Paul is dead?
Yeah.
That was a hoax, right? Well, I wasn't really dead.
Yeah. Or he'd be there when he'd say, you remember when you were in the Beatles? It's like, yeah, Chris. That was awesome. It's so funny. So
my favorite is the one where he has Jeff Daniels on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you were in The Butcher's Wife with Demi Moore. Yeah. She's married to Bruce Willis.
Yeah, then he starts talking about Die Hard. Yeah. It is so good, man. That guy was awesome. Oh, yeah. Man, he was funny. The other day I was at work and I just put on the YouTube, like, Farley's Greatest Hits or whatever it was, and it's like just laughing hysterically. I love the one where they're at the diner or whatever, where it's Adam Sandler and David Spade.
Oh yeah,
and
the Gap Girls.
Yeah. Lay off me, I'm starving.
Are you gonna eat these French fries?
So good.
Have you seen the one where Rob Schneider comes in and he's like the rival girl group? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they're like from another store or something. Yeah, I forgot what the store
and David
was.
Spade's like, I can't believe we're all wearing the same clothes we wore yesterday.
Yeah, that's funny. That's the one that came on when I was watching the best of the other day.
Man.
Too funny, man. So I just kind of want to go through from the beginning and be like, here we go. And I wrote down, like, from what I know, I have like all the whole track lists for every album I have.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it'd be cool to go through each song. Obviously, you might not have anything to say about some of them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. I don't remember, But I just know it's funny. I probably told you the story before, but when I started working at the library and I became friends with your mom, one day out of the blue, she just says to me, "Have you heard of my son?" And I thought that was the weirdest thing. Yeah, I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever heard anybody say. I was like, is he famous or something? And she's like, like locally maybe. Like I said, for what? And she's like, oh, he's a musician. I was like, okay,
What
cool.
year was this? Well, like 2008?
It had to. I know you were working on Dipso.
Oh, so 2009.
Right. Okay. Somewhere around there, because then I remember, and this is the first time I'd ever heard your music, because I said, no, I have never heard of him. And then your mom, and I think you helped her with it or whatever, but had made a CD basically of a
greatest hits collection.
Kind of, up to that point. Like there was some songs, some of the early stuff, like that's where I first heard, I mean, we'll talk about some of those songs, but I mean, that's where I first heard like Windshield and some, Polar Bears and Connie Kill Sky and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But then there was, like, Julian was on there and Waiter was on there.
Okay.
And it was a totally different version of Waiter, because I remember when the album came out, there was a certain sound effect that you didn't have in the version that I had.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the... I don't know if it was that or if it was something else, but something, because I remember when I heard the one on the album, I was like, dude, this is like something's missing here, Yeah. And now it's been so long because I don't have the old version anymore. I don't know what happened to it, because probably when the album got out, I was like, oh, now I have the real version. I'll just get rid of this one. So it was just kind of funny that she was like, oh, you got this thing, and then, so that's how I knew you were working on it, because she's like, this song and this song are upcoming. Like, he hasn't even released these yet. They're going to be on the next album that he's doing. So would that have been about 2009?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were just talking about that the other day, because I was saying that's back in the era where I would play them songs before the album was done. Like, here's the new song, here's the new song. Right. And at a certain point, I had to stop doing that because... Dale would have feedback. It's like, I like this, but I'm not quite sure what you're doing in the bridge. And I didn't know how to take constructive criticism.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, now I just hate this song and I never want to listen to it again. And I would just set it aside. And it was like, you know what? I think the responsible thing to do here is just wait until it's done. It's like, I'm sharing with them demos and in progress things. And then they're giving me feedback, but it's like, I don't know how to take feedback. I just I write the song, I record the song, and then I put it out. And
and if it's done, they try to critique it. It's like, no, this is
That's
done.
my favorite part now is that I just hand them a CD, and then when they have not my mom and Dale anymore, but other people have critiques, and I'm like, dude, you're holding the final CD in your hand. What do you want me to do? And our friend Weston actually took that, because I told him about that phenomenon. Like, you hand somebody a finished CD, they come back with notes, and you're like, you have a pressed, printed CD in your hand. What do you think I'm going to do here? And he took that exact phrasing and put it in a song from his band, The Friendos.
Oh, really?
If you ever heard the Friendos
I remember
album.
seeing them post that on, because was that him and Caleb?
No, it was him and his friend Christian Schmidt.
Oh, Christian.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who's like, he's the musician and Wes is the lyricist.
Okay.
And they came up with all these really silly, it's like Weird Al kind of music. It's really
it's supposed to be funny.
Over the top funny, like goofy. And I recorded the whole thing at Certain Sparks.
Okay.
And I think there's a few parts where I sang like backup vocals on it. But he has one song where they talk about the name of our band is The Friendos, and if you don't like that name, that's just too bad. And like, you're holding our final CD, so if you say come up with a better name, like, what do you think we're gonna do here? and he said, I took that from you, from that conversation we had.
Nice.
But that's funny.
That's awesome.
So anyway, and I was also gonna say up front, this is really weird timing, because I don't know if you're aware of what's going on at home.
I am not.
But my mom and I are in the process of clearing out my old recording studio at her house.
Okay.
Which was called the Radiant Radish.
Oh, is your aunt moving in?
My aunt is moving in.
Okay.
And so we've spent the last 2 months, like every few days, we're going out there and going through boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just my musical equipment. I thought I was just going there to pick up a few amps and guitars, and I was going to have to make room for them at my house. And once I got back there, my mom's like, oh no, we've been like loading the studio up with the stuff we've been bringing in from the garage for the last year. So there's stuff in there from my childhood, there's stuff in there from my mom's childhood.
Dang.
There's stuff in there from my grandparents, and leading all the way up to today. So there's every album I've ever recorded, I'm finding lyric sheets, I'm finding all kind like concept, like what do you call it, like proof of concept art for each album, where it's like, what if this was the album cover? No, what if this was it? And I
like a bunch of ideas,
yeah.
Not necessarily the ones you went with, but
right. So I'm just like, it's like going through a time warp. And I told her some of these days I go through a box, and the only thing I went through was stuff from 1996.
Okay.
That's like the whole box. So by the time I leave that room, I feel like I just walked out of a time machine.
Yeah.
And I was just in 96. It's really weird.
Which 96, you were what, 8?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know I'm 10 years older than you. I remember 96 when I graduated high school. So I'm like, I was 18, so you must have been 8.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So it's been just a bizarre few months. But musically, I'm like the most fresh and caught up I've ever been on my history.
Okay. Well,
and
perfect.
so what I've been doing is I got this idea from Rivers Cuomo from Weezer.
Yeah.
He's like a really obsessive, analytical kind of guy. And I had read years ago that he keeps a life timeline. So he has an Excel spreadsheet, and he keeps track of everything that ever happened to him. So any like significant events in his life, and now he just updates it every few days.
Only significant.
Only
not like I went to McDonald's today, or stuff like that.
Yeah. So like you could look back at it and be like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
And so I started doing that as we're going through these paperwork. Like, look, I found our Weird Al ticket stub. That was my very first concert.
Oh, no
So now
way.
I can put on my timeline, very first concert, July 26, 2000. Like, now I know. And so I've got this bizarre timeline going. And I branched off and started doing a music timeline because I realized there's a lot of stuff I didn't remember. So you're catching me at a good time.
Good.
But I'm also like acutely aware that the average person won't listen to this.
Right.
They've probably already stopped at this point.
Yeah.
And so I'm not under any impression that I'm doing this for an audience.
Right.
I assume you're the audience.
I'm the audience.
And I know you're curious about some of this stuff.
Yes.
So I'll answer whatever I can.
Oh, there's stuff.
But it's going to be weird.
Yeah, there's lyrics I wondered about for years. And
Okay.
so I mean, even like I asked you a while back, and you said you couldn't find it, but maybe now you have it. Is the lyrics to the songs from the Soundproof Box? Because a lot of those I can't make out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's real, like, you know, some of it's kind of, because you use a lot
muffled,
of interesting like sounds and stuff on that album anyway. So some of it I just kind of like, when I sing along to it, I just kind of sing like what I think it says, which is what I do with anything usually. I'm just like, you know, and then years later I'll find out it said something else. I was like, oh, and I can't stop singing the first way that I was singing it, even though it's like I know what it says now.
Well, since the last time we talked, Blink-182 put out a new album.
I saw that with Tom.
You should check it out.
Is it good?
It's some of their best work.
Oh, dude.
And but they put that CD out and they were rushed. I think they were like last minute. So every lyric in the booklet is wrong. So like we've been reading it and like we know some of the words, and they're now coming out saying that's not the words at all, and we're like, oh no. And it's like, so it turns out what happened is they just turned it over to the label, and some poor guy at the label had to just listen to a Blink-182 album and transcribe what he thought they were saying, and it's like,
because there was such a rush to get it out by a certain date.
It was so last minute. They also put it out with like temporary album artwork because they didn't have a final album cover yet. So
I wonder if they wanted to do it so quickly so they could have them to sell because they're touring now,
I think what it was is they've been working on it for over a year, and they're just kind of taking too long. And they probably had a label deadline where it had to be out by fall of this year. So they were probably pushing it and going, what's the last possible second we can turn it in? And even then, we don't have a final album cover yet. So we don't have a track listing.
What would you compare it to from their stuff? Like early Cheshire Cat kind of stuff, Dude Ranch?
No,
or like
it's
later?
probably closer to like Enema of the State.
Okay.
Where like they were starting to get more polished and more production heavy. But the last couple albums they put out were very like, you know, auto-tuned, and everybody complained they were overproduced, which I think is a kind of a misnomer, and I think people use that word wrong, but I get what they're saying. But with this album, it's a little more stripped back. It's more aggressive. They sound younger. They sound like their old selves again, and the style is a little more. There's some like fast like skate punk, like no effects kind of riffs in there and stuff. And
how about their lyrics? Are they sticking to more of the serious lyrics? They go back to being funny.
They're being a little more goofy now. And so they kind of mix in the same song though. So you'll have a serious song where they're talking about, you know, struggling through whatever phase of life, and then they'll just throw in a line. There's one that's what is the line? It's stick your blank in Ovaltine. And it's like, where did that come? They just throw that in out of nowhere. Like, what? And there's a lot of those. So we really enjoyed it. Allie and I, the day it came out, we drove around and just let's listen to it like we used to listen to old albums. And universally, everybody's like, this is the best work they've done in a long time. They're like on top of their careers
I'll
right
have
now,
to check it out. Well, I mean, I know everybody's
when you
so
and I
excited.
talked over the summer, we talked about Blink. And at that point, it was like, I don't really know what's going on with them. And now they're like they hit number one when the album came out. So
do you think that's mainly because of so many people were like, they like the Blink with Tom with all of them, right?
Yeah.
Like they like that version of Blink, and the fact that there was an album coming out. Because I remember when they announced the tour, it was like everybody's losing their minds.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like really? Like Tom DeLonge is back in Blink 182, you know?
And it sounded like, because they reunited years back, and people were really critical of them.
Right.
But it sounds like they spent the last couple years like rehearsing, really practicing their old songs where they sound like they did on the record.
I wonder what kind of fights and stuff are going on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I wonder if like Tom and Mark are still like
You
at
never
each
know.
other. Or
They
those...
did they did an interview with Zane Lowe, who's like an Australian radio DJ who goes really in depth with artists now, and they were talking about their breakup and how much they hated each other and how they didn't get along. And there's one point where Mark's like, "Yeah, I hated Tom DeLonge." He said, "I never want to be on stage with that guy again."
Right.
And they cut to Tom, and he's like,
he's like, "What?"
But yeah, they're like, it seems like they're very aware of what the general concept of their band is. They put out an acoustic song as their first single.
Really?
It's all about like how come the only time that we can sort of make up and get along again is when one of us almost dies tragically.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, and everybody was talking about this.
About
really,
like Travis, because
Travis
he
almost got in a
died,
plane
right?
crash, and then Mark was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma or something.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, and he's in remission now.
Dang.
But so when they reunited, it's like, hey, how come the only time we reunite is when one of us is almost dead?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
That's
the way it goes sometimes. Right. Wow. All right, well, let's start with like at what point in your life did you even realize to yourself, I want to do this? I want to start writing my own music. I want to start making my own music.
Wow.
Was that pretty early on, or?
No, I don't think so. Well, when I was a little kid, my parents had like a cassette tape recorder, and I remember my dad singing like songs that he would sing to put us to sleep at night. He would just record them on a cassette tape and then give it to us, which we thought was super cool.
That he would sing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, like Seasons in the Sun. Remember that one?
Yeah.
The 70s song. And,
is your dad a singer? Does he sing? Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
But he would sing us to sleep at night. And so when we had this cassette recorder, it was like, you should record yourself so that we can listen to it when you're at work, and we can listen to. I was probably 4 or 5 years old.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
So then at one point I recorded my own song for my dad.
Okay.
And that was like early on, we talked about that a lot. Like, was that the start of your musical?
Yeah.
Like you just sort of improvised this song for your dad, and
was it your own song? Like you wrote it?
Yeah. I'm like making it up on the spot as I'm singing it.
Nice.
But it was
freestyle.
So that was like, you know, the idea of recording a song was all the way back then.
Okay.
But I would say the impetus for actually making music was getting my first guitar, which was 1999. I just found out.
Oh, okay.
I would have thought it was way earlier, but on this timeline I'm putting together, it's like, nope, it had to be between these 2 months.
Yeah.
It was like July of 1999.
So you're about
I got
11
an
or
acoustic
12 or
guitar. I was 11, yeah.
Okay.
And didn't know how to play it for a little while. And then my band in 8th grade, we were called the Burnt Marshmallows.
Nice.
And we played the 8th grade talent show at the end. It was the last day of school of my junior
high. So you had only had a guitar for, what, a year, maybe?
Yeah, and I didn't play guitar in the talent show. I only sang. So the band needed a singer.
Okay.
And I was like, I'll sing. I have no fear about singing.
Really?
I will totally be the singer.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And had no idea what I was walking into. Had never done anything like that in front of people. So it was the last day of junior high, and they did a talent show. They split it into two sets. So we played one for the 7th graders and one for the 8th graders. And they just, the bleachers are full, and we're standing in the middle of the gym.
Right.
And we sang Stay Together for the Kids by Blink-182.
Oh, nice.
And that was the first time I'd ever sang in front of people.
Okay.
And after that, the band was like, not a very serious band. We didn't write our own songs or anything. But after that summer, I was like, I have to do this for real. Like, I need
the bug after
I need
that.
to get good at playing guitar. I need to figure out how to make my own songs. So the start of it was right after that talent show.
Okay.
Yeah. 8th grade.
Was there a good response to the performance? Like, kind of gave you some confidence?
It was mixed. Like, in the moment, like, definitely, we videotaped it. And I've seen the videotape maybe, 5 years ago I watched it.
Oh, you still have it somewhere?
Yeah. And,
no way.
Yeah. And we came out, I was wearing a blue wig and a blue baseball cap and like a poncho.
Okay.
And one of our friends was wearing like a jester hat, and I don't even remember what else. And so we just walk out in costume. We had an air horn, which in a little wooden gym was like, "Brrr!"
Oh, man.
But in the video, I mean, people are screaming. Like, it went really well.
Okay.
But over the summer, there were a few different times where people would come up to us and be like, hey, you guys butchered that Blink-182 song.
Oh, really?
So it was the first time I got, like, criticism about something I had
And how'd you handle that?
It hurt my feelings.
Okay.
But you know, in the moment, I'd be like, oh, yeah, we totally did. We did butcher that song.
Right.
But in hindsight, going back, it's like we're 13-year-olds who had never played in front of people before. It's not too bad. It's not
the
bad.
fact that you even did that is mind-boggling.
Right.
I mean, I could never. Like, even when I was living in San Diego, I was like 19.
Yeah.
And I had friends that were in bands, and the singer would leave, and they're like, hey, man, you should try it. Come. And that's always been a dream of mine, obviously, to do something cool like that. But I never had the stones to do it. I was like, no way. And that was even with, like, just the other 3 band members. Just like, no, just come over, we'll jam on the guitar, and we'll teach some of the songs, and you can just sing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even do that. I was so scared, you know?
Yeah. I think when you're a certain age, you don't even quite know how you feel about it. It's like, I hadn't developed shame yet. I was just like, I'll do that. I just want to be in the band. Like, whatever you guys say, I'll do.
Okay.
And, but yeah, in hindsight, it's like, I've watched the videotape, and it's like, we did all right. We did just fine for 13-year-olds who had only ever rehearsed one song in their lives. And yeah, the audience response was like, oh, everybody's screaming. And our drummer was really, like, he was jazz trained from the time he was 4.
Dang.
So he did this long drum solo in the middle, and people went nuts. It was like, it was really cool. And then boom, 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 right back into the chorus of the song. And it was like, people are standing up.
Wow.
So it was like, wow, that went over really well. And weird enough, my mom wasn't able to make it. So I don't know if she wasn't able to take off the day from work or what it was, but my aunt had to film it so my mom could watch it later. So we have it on a tape just because my mom wasn't able to make it. If she would have come, we probably wouldn't have a tape. So
yeah, that's so cool, man. That's really, really cool. So do you think that response kind of do you think it did give you some, like, encouragement in the sense, like,
the response in the moment made me feel good, like, oh, people enjoyed this and I enjoyed being up there. And I remember, because it was the last day of school, we're leaving school that day, and you're walking down the hall, and all these teachers are walking past me, and they're like, oh my god, Chris.
Oh,
I
really?
had no idea. You're like the quietest kid in class.
Yeah.
I never expected to see you walk out and sing in front of the whole school. It was like, and I had just, like, 2 weeks before that, gotten second place in the spelling bee.
Okay.
And then, like, a few weeks before that, I was in a school play where the lead of it was A Midsummer Night's Dream, and the lead got sick, like, right before the show.
Oh, wow.
And the teacher was like, you know all of the lines to this play, right?
Oh, no.
And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I want you to go on and be the main character. So my mom and, like, my whole family showed up, and they didn't even know till the teacher walked out, and she's like, before our performance, I just want to let you know, our lead actor has fallen ill, and so Chris Lambert will be playing the main role.
Dang,
and they were like, what? Like, they were probably freaking out. It's like, how is he going to do that?
Wow.
He's never done it. Yeah, so within the last month of junior high, I suddenly, like, stepped out of my shell for the first time and was doing these performances in front of people, like, you know, everything.
And this is before or after the Burnt Marshmallows?
This was the same time period.
Okay.
So the Burnt Marshmallows being the last of those things. The play, the spelling bee.
Wow, it was all at once.
And then that was like, wow, I really went out of 8th grade with a bang. And people had a really good response to it for the most part. They were very complimentary. And I think it sort of subverted their expectations of me as the quiet, shy person. They were like, oh, Chris also, like, you know, steps out and does these performances when needed. And so that was, I think I spent that summer thinking, I'm going to start a band, and that's going to be my whole life. I'm just going to be the band guy now. I'm going to write songs. I, like, pressured my friend Trevor, my best friend, for, like, my whole life. I pressured him into buying a bass because I was like, you got to be my bass player. I don't have a band, and we're going to do this. And he's like, oh, he's always really enthusiastic about anything you get him into. So he got his mom to take him to a pawn shop that summer and she got him a fretless bass, which at the time we didn't even know what that was. We're like, oh, that's fine. We can still
Isn't that harder
make
to play,
that work. Yeah, because you have to, wherever your finger lands, it kind of bends the note, and you're never really right in the center.
With the frets, you know where to put your fingers. Without, you just have to know.
You just get it in within the 2 lines, but closer to one line or the other completely changes the pitch. And he never really figured it out either. Like, he played around with it. I think he got a bass book and figured out a few notes. But it wasn't his thing. He was never really into music the way
so you guys just
that
used
I was.
To kind of play around, but you never really did anything.
It was basically the start of what I realized like became a theme for the next few years, which is I just need somebody to pretend to be in my band.
Okay.
So I will be motivated to write songs for us.
Gotcha.
And I'm doing all the songwriting in my bedroom, and they're not even a part of it, but the fact that they're saying they are or making me feel like they're going to be is the only thing getting me through this. So it's like that whole summer, the goal was Trevor and I are this band. We called ourselves Special Order.
Okay.
Which came from a McDonald's sticker that they would put on your like fillet of fish. It's like Special Order, and we thought it was funny because like Special Ed.
Yes.
And so when we started our freshman year, we would just go up to people and be like, "I'm Special Chris.
Right.
This is Special Trevor, and our band is Special Order."
You needed a band member named Edward. Then you could have a Special Ed in there as well. That would have been great.
And that lasted probably a few months, and Trevor was a lot less shy than I was, so for a while after that, people just called him Special.
Okay.
And I would call his house and be like, "Hi, is Special there? Can I talk to Special?" And I almost forgot his name, because we exclusively called each other Special.
How funny.
That whole time. But that was our idea of a band that never actually did anything. But it's what made me start to learn riffs and try to pick up the guitar. I think my dad bought me my first electric guitar that summer.
Nice.
Like, all right, if you're going to get into this thing, I'll get you a guitar.
Was it a Stratocaster or whatever?
It was Squire Stratocaster, the more affordable one. And I didn't have an amp for a long time.
Okay.
So it was just, if you've ever played an electric guitar unplugged.
Yeah, it sounds like you'd almost rather have an acoustic.
Yeah.
Because you can't barely hear it.
Being 13 or 14 years old, it was heavy. It's like this big, solid wood guitar, and I would bring it to my mom's apartment when we stayed. We were bouncing back and forth between my dad's house and my mom's apartment. So I'd have to carry it up the stairs, and I'd sit on her couch and play it quietly. And I would call Trevor on the phone and just be like, "Dude, listen to this riff I just came up with."
Yeah.
He's like, "That's cool. Yeah, that's our next song." And then, we never had any songs. But a lot of that early period was just me fantasizing about what if we were a band.
Right.
And as long as I had someone to play along with the fantasy, it was like, I'll go write the songs, and I'll be back later with songs.
Right.
So
is that where we get into things like these ones, like Cluck the Duck and songs that make all these ones? Because so I didn't know there was anything prior to Silent Explosion. But obviously there's been a lot of, so these are like other bands you worked with, other people, or were this kind of like on your own?
Back and forth. It depends on which ones. But
okay.
So where I'm Special Order was 2002. So that was right when I was going into my freshman year of high school. And my first band in high school that was like an actual band that played together, we were called Stupid and Liking It.
Okay.
Which we thought was so funny at the time. It's like, we're stupid and we like it. Like, we're proud of it. And that was the first band we would go to his garage and just practice guitar. Yeah. Both of us played guitar, and that was all we had. So it's like, we got two guitarists here.
Yeah.
And
you almost got the Beatles.
We play like the riff for Crazy Train for like an hour. Just do 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 do, and it's like, play it faster. Do 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 do. And that's all we really did. But at that point, we had this boom box when I was growing up that was like one of those dual cassette boom boxes. You could put one cassette in and tape it to the other.
Yeah, I used to have one of those.
And it had like a built-in pinhole microphone. Remember those? Like it just had a little dot in the top that it would record audio
on the actual
part of the boombox, and so it had terrible sound because it's a piece of plastic that somebody poked a hole in and stuck a little piece of foil probably and was like, that's a microphone. But I would bring that to our practices in the garage and just press record, and we'd just play all the riffs we could learn. Or we were playing that was when the White Stripes first came out, and the Hives and the Vines and garage rock. So we were playing a lot of those songs, but not all the way through. We'd just play the beginning riff and be like, there we go, we did it. And then we would do skits and stuff to try to make each other laugh.
Yeah.
And then we would take those cassette tapes to school. I had a box that you pop open the little tabs and it's lined with cassettes. And I'd just walk into a group of people and be like, you want to buy my band's tape?
Oh, really?
Nobody ever wanted it because they're like, who are you? And each one had handmade artwork. We didn't have the ability to press things.
Right.
So we just draw on each one.
So everyone was different.
Yeah, each one. And what was on them was different because we'd go back and record them the next day. We'd have to record them from scratch. But I think we probably sold 5 of them ever. And so those are out there somewhere.
Do you have any?
I don't.
Oh, wow.
And they're probably garbage quality because it's
sure.
2 kids in a garage with a pinhole microphone.
Yeah.
But
and were they all just instrumental, or were you singing as well?
I think I sang some of them. I remember I wrote a song. Really, the only song I remember writing for that band was called Hortense, which is a woman's name that I came across in some book somewhere, and I looked it up. I like Googled it, and it's like Hortense is, a female name going back to Celtic times or whatever.
What
and
a
I thought,
horrible name
that's
for
what
a
I thought
female to have.
I pictured in my head somebody named Hortense
Yeah.
is like a horrible looking person,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
So the lyrics were all about like this girl Hortense, and it was just all the disgusting things about her. It's like she's got a pointy nose and yellow teeth and stringy hair, and just me listing the horrible things about her.
Yeah.
And how sick it made me. Like
Yeah.
Hortense is my girl. She makes me want to hurl, and that kind of stuff. And so we played that one over and over. That was like our only real original song.
Okay.
And so that band probably played together for 6 months, maybe. And in that time, we went to... There used to be a T-shirt screen printing shop in the Big 5 parking lot right next to Marie Callender's.
Okay. Yep.
And we just walked in, like two 14-year-olds, and we're like, we want to get band T-shirts for our band. And the guy's like, okay, how many? 2? 1 for each of us? And so
That's awesome.
We ordered 2 band T-shirts. It probably cost like $75 or something.
Yeah.
We had to pool our money together, so we each bought a black T-shirt that said "stupid" and liking it in white print, and we wore them to school all the time.
Yeah.
And people just thought it was like one of those graphic tees with a dumb statement on it.
Right,
Nobody
right.
knew it was our band, but for us, it was like, this is the
That's
cool.
so
we
awesome.
have shirts, and so then people would ask like, "Do you sell them? Like, do you
Yeah.
have shirts for sale?" No,
We only have
just,
2.
just ours.
Have you seen Can't Hardly Wait?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You remember the Love Burger band that they start?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they're like, you can't wear your own band shirt, and they get this big old fight about it. What are you calling Hootie? Love it.
We thought that was the coolest thing, to wear your own band's
Yeah.
T-shirt to school, because we thought this is like edgy.
Right.
You're not supposed to do this, but we're doing it because we're rebels and we
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Because
it
you're
was-
stupid
was a
and you're
silly
liking
time.
it.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we probably lasted about 6 months, and then had one of those dramatic like high school breakups where just one day out of the blue, he's like, "I don't want to be in a band anymore, man."
Oh,
I was
really?
like, "Why?" And he's like, I want to focus on other stuff." And I was like, I probably went home and cried.
Yeah, I
like,
bet.
It really hurt my feelings.
Oh, yeah.
Even though we weren't that serious. And then
Right.
we just never talked ever again.
You and your friend?
Yeah, so it was like, did we just break up? Like, we just
Yeah.
had a friend breakup. And there was really no, we practiced once a week in his
Right,
garage. We got
right.
along.
But he's still your
We,
good
like-
friend today, right?
No, so this is
Is this a different?
his name was Josh.
Oh, I thought we were still on Trevor.
No, Trevor was special
Okay.
order.
Gotcha.
And then-
Okay.
And then there was some drama with that too, because when I started Stupid and liking it, I stopped hanging out with my real friends, because it was
Right.
like, I'm just in this band now.
Yeah.
So when Josh, like, not just broke up with me band-wise, but broke up with me as a friend,
Right.
it was like, oh man, I got to go back and like apologize to my friends. So I had to like sit down with Trevor and like, I'm really sorry that I've been hanging out on the other side of the hill. And he's like, it's fine. Like, Trevor's always been super
Okay.
easygoing kind of guy.
Yeah. So you never talked to this Josh guy ever again?
Yeah, I think maybe once or twice we
Okay.
talked on MySpace.
Okay.
It's like, hey, how's it going, man? It's going good. I did years later. I did a cover of Poison Oak by Bright Eyes.
Yeah, I
and
have that.
he was a huge fan,
Yeah.
so he said, "Can I play drums on it?"
Okay.
Sure. And so he like sent me the drums, and I put them together.
Nice.
So that's him drumming on that.
Okay.
But no, we've never been in the same room
Oh,
since
funny.
that. It was
And did
just
you
a
guys
weird-
ever play in front of people?
No.
Okay.
Well, we played in his garage, and we started inviting friends to come watch us.
Okay.
So or to like film us. So there's some tapes out there of us playing in his garage, and then we would go skateboarding, and we'd film all that, and we'd try to put the music to the skateboarding, and
Okay.
and we like put on Halloween masks and stuff, and prank each other and prank other people. We put remember those poppers that you would throw down?
Oh yeah,
like,
the little gunpowder things.
we
or-
would like line the little what do you call those, like security gates to get into a gated community.
Oh,
We'd
yeah.
line the top of it with those, and we thought it would be the funniest thing if when it went up, it just all these popping,
Yeah.
and instead a car punches in the code and it lifts up and it goes.
Yeah. And if they have their window up, they can't even hear
And
it.
we'd have the camera set up for like half an hour recording, because somebody's going to come through there, and it's like, shh, shh, they're coming. And that was the whole
Love
thing.
it, man.
So yeah, we would just like we started filming everything we did.
Okay.
And sometimes we'd have 2 or 3 people come watch us in the garage, but we never like booked a show.
Mm-hmm,
And like I said, we didn't have many original songs, if any, besides Hortense.
Right.
And so it wasn't really serious, but when we broke up, I was like devastated. I was like, I don't know what to do now, because I thought this band was going to be my whole life.
Yeah, you're about
And
to go
so-
big time, man.
So the next step after that was my cousins, Rachel and Dee Dee, who were really close in age to me and my brother.
Yeah.
We were close at that time, and they were secretly they were pretending to be Stupid and Liking It fans just to be supportive of me.
Okay.
So they would make they'd use fabric paint and make their own Stupid and Liking It t-shirts.
Like puff paint?
Yeah, exactly. And glitter and stuff. And I think my Aunt Teresa, for years after that band split up, she would still wear the shirt.
Nice.
And it would say "You're with Stupid and Liking It." And so I remember calling them. I went home from school the day Josh broke up with me, and I called them and I was like, yeah, the band's over, guys. I don't know what I'm going to do. And Teresa was like, you know what? Rachel and Dee Dee will be your band.
Really?
They'll learn how to play instruments. And again, like I said, it was the idea of the band made me go write songs.
Right.
But we never did anything together.
Okay.
We were never. It was never a serious thing. But we bought Rachel a drum kit and put it in our garage. You're going to come learn drums. She never did. Well, Dee Dee bought a bass at some point and never learned how to play it. But the idea of the three of us being a band was yes, I have a band again.
Yeah.
So that's when I started writing some real original songs for the first time. Now we're in 2003 now.
Okay.
That's how.
Yep.
This timeline is.
Yeah, and the first thing I have is this Cluck the Duck in 2004.
Yeah,
so we're not even
Kick the Duck.
Kick the Duck. Okay.
Yeah.
Kick
So.
the Duck. Yeah. Cluck the Duck sounds better.
Gosh, what led into that? So 2003, I started writing kind of originals and parody songs where I would take a real song and just change the words to be something funny.
Right,
and
Weird Al.
we thought the funniest thing in the world at that time was that our cousin Troy was a stoner. And so we're like, man, can you guys believe Troy smokes marijuana now? It was because we were 14
right,
and he was 17.
Yeah.
And so it was he's throwing his life away. And
Yeah.
he was, at the time, he was very athletic and he was a star swimmer. He got straight A's. And then he became just a stoner.
Yeah.
And so that was the family joke between me and my cousins was Troy's a stoner now. So we would just write songs about Troy's really high. He's always high. And we just thought it was the funniest thing. So we would try to make each other laugh by writing songs about Troy being a stoner or other family members. They had family members they didn't get along with, so we'd write a song about my aunt is trash, she's white trash. And we thought that was really funny to just write songs about our family. And
so far all the songs you've talked about writing yourself are derogatory against somebody.
Yeah.
You had the Hortense, and then you got your cousin's a stoner, your aunt's trash.
I think because I think my only goal with music then was to be funny.
Okay.
So it was the funniest thing I could do is talk about somebody who's in a a strange dark person.
Right.
And I thought that was funny. And so I started writing songs with the idea that we were a band, but they were all my songs and I was the only one recording them. And this is 2003 is when we moved in with Dale. And so Dale, when my mom and Dale got together, was living in an old people's community. It was an elderly mobile home park. Okay. And he lived way at the back of it, and you'd have to drive through the front gate, and it was really super quiet there and stuff. And when I started bringing over those cassette tapes I would record, and Dale's, just like she did with you, it's have you heard my son's music? Right. You got to check out his music. And this is the very, very, very beginning. So it sounded as bad as you can imagine a music recording sounding. It was a little worse than that. And we'd play it for Dale, and a few times he was like, oh, I like that. That's pretty good. And I could tell when he was faking it. Right. But he had a genuine response to a few songs where it was okay, I kind of see what you're doing here. Okay. And so sometime around there, he bought me for one of my birthdays a 4-track digital recorder. Nice. So it's now you don't have to lug this boombox around. You can plug into this, and it was this big.
And way better quality.
And way better quality. And so, my dad had bought me a microphone at the warehouse. I think I told you this story when I was on last time. Went to buy Descendants Everything Sucks. Yes. And in the checkout line saw this $15 microphone, and it's Dad, it's the same price as the CD. Can I just get the mic? What do you want a microphone for? You record music. And so he finally relented and let me get it. So I would plug that mic into the digital recorder, sit on the floor and my dad's house in my bedroom, and just every day it was like the goal is now I'm going to write a song and bring it to my mom and Dale next time and play them a new one, and if they like it, I'm going to come back and record new ones and keep doing that. So Dale, when we moved in with him, was really the push that was like, oh yeah, I want to support what you're doing here. And so when I started recording those 4-track songs and bringing them to him and he liked them, he was like, go back and like, now I'm going to get you an 8-track recorder. He got me an 8-track recorder eventually. Wow. And so Dale was really the reason that I was able to progress on to the next level that way.
So you were actually recording stuff back then.
Yeah.
Even if whether it was bad recording sound or good, you were still writing songs and doing. Now
and the idea in my head was always I'm making an album. It was like I never just recorded a song just to see what happened. It was like this is the next track on this album. Yeah. And so I had a cassette tape called Big Red Shoes. It was like the first real full length cassette I filled, and I colored the little jacket of it with colored pencils and stuff, and there's a big red Converse on it because I wore like size 12 red Converse in high school.
Now, was there a song called Big Red Shoes? Or
I don't think so.
You just wanted to call the album that?
I think one of my friends was like, Chris, I love your Big Red Shoes, and I was like, that's the name of my next album. I love that. I love the way that sounds. So yeah, I drew the cover, and I don't even remember what songs made it onto that tape. Yeah. But I was filling out the tape and bringing it to my mom and Dale every week, and it's like I got the next song done. So
nice.
I was recording stuff in my bedroom and then putting it on like little compilations that I would call an album.
Sure.
And
that you would just give to like your mom and Dale, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. You weren't like sitting outside of Albertsons trying to peddle your little your tapes.
You know what I did do eventually is I would bring the box of cassette tapes to school and be like, does anybody want to buy my new tape?
Oh, okay.
And usually they didn't. And another like deceptive skill that I developed around that time is I would come to school and I would tell my friends, hey, have you heard that new song by like the Vandals or like whatever cool band? It's like, hear that song by NoFX or the Vandals? It goes like, and I would just sing a song I had just written and they'd be like, oh yeah, I heard that one. Like, yeah, that's a good song, right?
You fooled them. How funny.
I remember writing, there was a song I wrote called I'm a Blonde-Haired Blue-Eyed Black Jewish Nazi.
Nice.
Which I thought, it's like all the contradictions.
Right.
And so I'd go to school and be like, you guys heard that song? It's like, I'm a blue-eyed, blonde-haired Black Jewish Nazi. And they're like, yeah, I heard that song. And then for years after that, they would like reference that. Like, oh yeah, what happened to that song? Like, I don't know. They're like, awesome. I couldn't find it on any of the CDs.
Oh man.
That's weird. So I would kind of trick them into thinking, hey, this song that I just wrote is actually by a band that we already like, and they'd be like, oh, it's cool. It's a cool song. Yeah. So that was like how I would test to see if my songs were any good.
That's awesome.
By lying to my friends.
But you take the name out of it, right? It's like Stephen King can write the crappiest novels of all time. He's still going to sell millions of copies.
Yeah.
No matter what, just because his name's on it, right? It's like, well, what if I was Stephen King, and I think he's done this a few times, but I'd be like, okay, what if I just put out a novel under James Saint whatever, some name that nobody's heard of?
Right.
Am I still going to sell? That's how I would try to find out if my writing was still good.
Yeah.
Or if people are just buying my name, So it makes sense to do that.
Yeah, so that's up to Big Red Shoes.
Okay.
The next album, Kick the Duck was a band that I formed that was, halfway between a real band and it was again. My friend Trevor played bass.
Okay. He came back in, huh?
Yeah. He was like, he was always there. Like, I'm just telling him, you're my bassist now, and he's like, okay. So he was gonna play bass, and I played guitar. We put in, you remember like the cork boards they'd have at Jensen's Guitar or whatever, you put up, like, drummer wanted.
Yes.
And so we put up an ad and we got a response from this guy and he's like, oh yeah, I play drums. Like I love like skater punk and pop punk. And we're like, okay, cool. So we went to his house and we show up and he's like, I think he's like 12 years old.
Oh,
and
wow.
We were like 15 at that point, maybe 14 or 15. And he was like, 4'8", little guy with a bowl cut.
Nice.
And he's got like one of those studded like black leather bracelets on. And he's like, hey, what's up, guys? I'm a punk rocker. And we're like, oh no. But then we played with him and it's like, he's pretty good because he's been taking drum lessons.
Yeah.
He could play a few like Green Day songs and stuff, and we're like, we could do that.
Well, I was just going to say, Gets Away Green. I mean, Trey Cool was like 12 years old when he started playing with the Lookouts, and then he
went to Green Day. How old was he when he started winning Green Day? Like 14, I think, or something?
Yeah, I know. Some of those like early Blink-182 shows, they were too young to play at a bar.
Yeah.
So they'd have to sit on the curb outside till it was time. And it was like...
It's so awesome.
We could be in a band with a kid as long as... And back then, and even, I mean, it hasn't really changed, but back then I remember thinking, I've been in all these bands and we never, ever have a drummer.
Yeah.
It's like so hard to find a drummer because... either they don't play drums, or if they do, they're already in a band.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like in the Burnt Marshmallows, we had that really cool jazz drummer.
Yeah.
And he only wanted to play jazz music. He was like, my parents don't want me playing punk rock. Like, I'm not allowed to. He had to, like, break up with us, too.
Yeah.
And then in Stupid and Liking It, we had a girl come over one time and play drums, and all we did was like play one riff with her drumming along to it the whole day, and we're like, this is it, we're a real band now. But so finding a drummer was hard, so we met this kid Brian, and we're like, Brian will be our drummer, that's cool. And he lived in the same neighborhood that Allie grew up in, and I found out years later she knew him and was friends with him, like in junior high. And I'm like, we were in a band with that guy when we were like 15, and he was a little kid, and we're like, what's up, dude? And we like, I remember walking from his house to Kmart and buying a bunch of bulk blank t-shirts so we could go back to his garage and like screen print Kick the Duck on them. Our band was called Kick the Duck, which was the name of our mascot. It was a duck named Kick. Oh.
So it's not physically kicking a duck. It's like, this is a duck whose name is Kick.
Yeah. But we also thought the name was funny. It's like the idea of kicking a duck is funny.
Yeah.
But it's actually the duck's name.
Okay.
Not cruel.
Right.
But and like I was telling you, digging through this stuff, I actually found this Kick the Duck CD that we made.
Oh, no way. Let's see if I can find it. Was that one of the pictures you sent me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so...
You guys made an actual CD?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I'm almost positive... Well, here's... I think I sent you this yesterday, too. This is a badge that we made when I was in Stupid and Liking It. And it says, one stupid fan, spelled wrong. And we thought people are going to wear that, like, on their T-shirts. Like, it's a button.
Right.
And we just cut them out of construction paper, I think. And then...
That's awesome.
This is part of the trouble, is I've been going through so many things. I have to, like, go way back to find what I'm looking for.
Right.
But anyway, this is... Kick the Duck. This was our album cover. Was called Loner. And this was actually a cassette tape that I found out how to transfer to CD. Okay. So I would have to like plug in headphones to the cassette deck and put the headphones around the like dome of my microphone, and then plug the microphone into my 4-track to transfer all the tapes. And this is what the disc looked like. That was Kick the Duck that I had drawn.
14 songs on there. Damn, dude. And did any of those make it into anything you did later? Those songs? Did you like morph them into other songs?
So for the next several months, I think I put out 3 or 4 different iterations of the same batch of songs with a few exceptions.
Okay.
So there was a song called No Name Girl I wrote. There was a song called Sugar Daddy. Countless. My Friend Sid. Thinking of Her. I wrote a song called Vacation in Wisconsin when we went to Wisconsin, and it was just like a walkthrough of how terrible a lot of that trip was and stuff. So anyway, then maybe a few months later, I put out this CD called Broken Silence, and this was like, this is my serious music, but it was almost like the same
track list?
Well, it has Sugar Daddy on it again.
Okay.
It has...
And was this you by yourself at this point?
Yeah, and honestly, most of the Kick the Duck stuff was taped in my bedroom by myself anyway.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like, there was never really full band recordings at that time because I didn't know how to do that.
Well, how were you...
the liner notes of the Kick the Duck, this is me when I was 15, like on one of those little playground things. This is me hugging our friend Matt.
That's awesome.
And so Kick the Duck was...
Well, how were you getting like the drums, and were you just playing everything then when you were doing recordings for that?
Yeah, and Dale had bought me, probably for Christmas or something, this little like pad that had like 4 drum pads on it that were rubber, and you hit them with a stick and you could set what each sound was. So like this is the kick drum, this is the snare, this is a cymbal, this is a hi-hat, and I just go... It sounded real bad. And then I hit it so hard that after a few months of playing it, it started to glitch. So you would hit one drum and it'd make the sound, but it'd go like, in between.
Oh, man.
So all of my songs, like the drums were just in the background, just losing their mind, like just haywire drumming in the background that was still on beat, but it just sounded terrible.
Right.
And then eventually, on one of the trips I took to Louisiana, I gave them, from Kick the Duck, we did the Loner album, and then Songs That Make You Go Ech.
Okay, yeah.
Was one that I put together of mostly the same batch of songs, a few different ones.
Okay.
And I brought it to Louisiana with me the next summer, and I gave copies to every family member. It had a real. I haven't found a copy of that one yet. I don't know if I have any.
Because you have a whole lot of family over there. I know your dad's over there, but all his side of the family's over there.
Lots of uncles, aunts, cousins, grandma.
Yeah.
And so I pressed them. Dale had this thing called CD Stomper. Do you remember that?
Is that when it would put the...
You put the disc on and you step on it and it presses the label on the disc.
Yeah.
And then you could print out an album cover. You could print out the tray card and you'd have to fold it. Yeah. And so he had that when we moved in with him and was like, can I make some CDs? And so he showed me how to use the program and stuff. Songs That Make You Go Eck was like a stock photo of a guy like just puking in a toilet. And it was like, oh, these songs are so bad, it's going to make people sick. Yeah. And so I brought it to Louisiana, and I, again, like, no shame, just gave copies to every family member.
Yeah.
And then they'd come back to me with feedback, like, oh, yeah, I really like the song. I had a song called Last Night that was about the last night before you're going to go on a diet.
Oh,
so you're just like stuffing your face with like, I got pizza and fried chicken and everything I can eat.
Been there.
And then the clock strikes midnight and it's like, oh no, my diet.
My life is over.
And so I remember my family being like, hey, I like that song. You really like pizza that much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
14.
doesn't? Yeah.
And so I remember my Aunt Connie, when we were there, telling me, I really like your music, but you know what I would really like is just like an instrumental album that I can put on to go to sleep at night. Just no vocals or anything like that, just the background music. And so that was like my goal for the next, I came home from Louisiana. We would take the Amtrak back every year. So it was like a 3-day train
from
trip
here
there.
to Louisiana?
Yeah, every summer. We did this from
my gosh.
2000 to 2006 when I graduated. Take the Amtrak. It's a 3.5 day trip there.
Who went? Just like you and Corey?
Me, Corey, and my dad.
Oh my gosh.
And then take the train back. So when we get on the train, it's like, this is going to be 3 days of sleeping, sitting up. They don't have beds.
Right.
I think they have sleeper cars that cost extra, but we couldn't afford that. So it's like you just lean your seat back an inch, and it's like, yep, this is where
horrible.
I kind of loved it. Like as a teenager, it's like, this is cool. And you look out these big windows and you see like New Mexico and what Texas looks like and Arizona. Yeah. And I was like, this is cool. I loved going back there every year. But then, we grew to love everybody back there and get to know them really well. And so each time we'd go back, it's like, hey, here's my new CD and stuff. And so when I got back, I was like, I got to make an instrumental album for Connie. Okay. And so that was called Accidental Beginnings.
Okay.
And it was 10 tracks of just instrumental music
like
that I tried
mellow
to make.
kind of acoustic guitar kind of stuff.
Some of it was, but I think I didn't really understand the assignment because some of it was just punk rock with no singing.
She's like trying to sleep.
Yeah, it's just like, and I did what I did was because she said she wanted to sleep to it, and so the whole album's mellow, but then at the very end I put one of those secret tracks. So at the end of the last song, there's like a few minutes of silence, and then just chaos, just like drum machines and like trumpets and everything.
That's awesome.
And just. It was like, what a mean thing to do.
Yeah, I picture this lady just like totally, oh boy, those first 10 songs were so nice and peaceful. I'm almost asleep, and then this thing just comes in. Whoa, what in the world?
Let me play you that, because I have that one.
Oh, really?
I'll just play you the little chaos ending.
Okay.
Like, why did I do this to you?
That's awesome.
So this is after, a minute of silence.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome, dude. And is that you actually playing the drums?
No, that's a drum machine.
Oh, okay. I was like, because it was kind of cool. There was a lot of change-ups in there.
It was one of those ones where you just press the fill button. It's like, okay. And then go into the next one.
That's so awesome.
So yeah, I don't know why I did that, but that was...
That's accidental beginnings.
And again, it's just like having the mission statement, somebody saying, I want an instrumental album from you, was like, now I have a job. It's like, now I know what I'm going to do for the rest of the summer.
Right.
I probably spent, a month or two in my bedroom every day. Like, got to work on the next instrumental track for Connie's CD.
Yeah.
And, mailed it back there, a few copies for them.
Okay.
And then that became the ritual, is every time I would finish a new CD, I just load a bunch up in an envelope and mail them back there, and they would pass them out to each other.
And that was kind of all those things from like Kick the Duck on.
Yeah.
Where it's just basically you yourself writing songs and putting them on discs and giving them to family members.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You never played anything live for anybody? You never did anything like that? Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
And I didn't even know at the time, it's like, how do you even book a concert? It's like, I go to concerts and I see, like, how do I get on stage? I don't know how.
Right.
I didn't know the steps to get there.
Yeah, that's the struggle
like,
Aiden had. The same thing. And the only few shows he's played is because he had some friends in a band and they're like, hey, you want to open for us?
Right.
And he's played like 2 or 3 times in live, and it's or his school. He did a little show at his school where they did like 2 songs or something because it was like a showcase where it was all the kids. It's like talent show kind of thing at the school. But they put him last. Because they knew he was going to be like,
the showstopper.
And he got all the bit, I have one of those recordings. In fact, I think I gave it to you, but it's the song Abby.
Yes.
Which is a song. Then I have there's a lot, the live version of it he played at the school, which is, I love it. I get all emotional every time I listen to it. Just because, I don't know, just because of the way that he gets the crowd going. He gets this whole crowd to sing a song they've never even heard before.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it just makes me feel like, oh man, dude, that's like, probably partly because I've always wanted to be that, like my whole life. Like, man, how cool to be like a singer in a band, or to be performing on stage, or something. Back in the '90s, like, oh, being a punk band, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
But I never had, the balls to do it. Really, I just never did it. And then I see him do it, and I was like, man, nice, son. Yes, I can live through you.
Exactly. And then you can kind of empathize with somebody being like, hey, have you heard of my son?
Right.
You got to check out my son's music.
Yes.
And that's, I think a lot of people in that position, it's like, I don't want to listen to your son's music. It just, the pressure of having to do that.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't know my mom did that. I didn't know that, like, there were people. I would have been so embarrassed to know that people at the library were aware of what I was doing.
Oh, really?
Especially because so many of these songs were jokes to begin with.
Right.
The first 5 or 6 albums I put out were jokes.
Right.
And
do you think that, is that kind of because, do you think maybe because you didn't, I'm just throwing this out there, like because I'm thinking about, like, for myself, what I would be doing. Like, I usually use humor as a not so much a defense mechanism. That's kind of what it is. But, like, I feel like if I'm making a joke with something I'm creating, and people don't like it, or they laugh at it, or think, it's like, oh, I was totally just kidding.
Yeah.
To where if I pour my heart into something, it's like, oh, I'm going to write a serious song about what I'm dealing with, and I'm really going to try to make it sound really good. And then somebody says, dude, that sucks.
Yeah.
I feel like that would almost destroy me even more,
Yeah.
So were you kind of like testing the waters? Or
I don't think so, because my impetus for getting into, like, this kind of stuff was making people laugh. It was going back to, my mom and I were just talking about this. We weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons when I was growing up. My mom was like, that's off limits.
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy. It's like all those crude shows you're not allowed to watch. But when we turned 12, she started letting us watch The Simpsons, and she would watch it with us. And we would die laughing.
That's so funny.
And then she started letting us watch Saturday Night Live. And so on Saturday nights, we would stay up late. She'd make a bowl of popcorn, and we'd sit on the floor and all watch it together and die laughing. This is, late 90s, so we're moving just out of, like, David Spade, Chris Farley, Adam Sandler into like Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, Molly Shannon. And oh my God, like every night just die laughing. And then I would go to school Monday and I would rehearse like one of the skits word for word. I'd be like, and they would play old reruns too. So we would see like Dana Carvey doing the first Bush. Who we didn't know at all. It's like, I don't know anything about Bush, but I know that impression. I was like, can I finish? Was that Ross Perot? Ross Perot said, can I finish? And so we'd go to school and just do them, and people would laugh. And it was like, this is what I want to do, is just like do comedy and make people laugh. So probably when I got into music, that was the first thing I wanted to do, was how do I make people laugh with this? Right. And I was into bands like Green Day and Blink-182, who were also trying to make people laugh a lot of the time. And so I just didn't take it seriously. I don't think I was being funny to try to deflect. I think it was just like, no, that's all I know. And then later on it was like, oh, I should take this a little more seriously and
Yeah.
write some songs about. And then once I started, I'd have a crush on a girl, and then she would not full out reject me, but just not pay attention to me, and then she'd start dating another guy, and it's like, now I'm going to go home and write a really sad song, and that became like my new thing. And my mom, I'd play them for my mom, and she's like, "How are you writing? Like, what are you going through at school that you're like writing these melodramatic, heartbreaking songs? You've never even been in a relationship. You never even had a girlfriend." That's like, yeah, but I can imagine what it would be like, and it hurts. So it was just a lot of sad songs about like the idea of being rejected, or the idea of and so
That's so funny. Okay.
So what's next on your list?
Well, I got through all that, and then we got this Ben Significant. Does that kind of fit into that same thing we were just talking about? Because the next thing will be the Rendlesham Forest, which I've heard some songs from that. So that's the beginning of my actual hearing.
Okay. So Ben Significant was a band, again, that I started with my friend Trevor. And what it was we went to a 99-cent store for my friend Shannon's birthday, and we're like, we're just going to spend $10 here. We're going to get our 10 items. Let's try to get 10 items that, when they're together on the checkout stand, like look really sketchy. Like just like what are the creepiest things we can find? So it's like, let's get a pack of hot dogs and a jar of petroleum jelly, and then we got a snorkel.
Oh my gosh!
And then like a pack of those dust masks, like protective dust masks.
Just so the cashier's like, what kind of weird stuff are these guys into?
Like, I think we got a pack of multicolored condoms. It's like all the colors of the rainbow or something. And so we just lined just to see the look on the cashier's face.
Right.
And when we got out to the parking lot, we were dying laughing. And we held the receipt up. The receipt was like a trophy because it has these items in order that even just reading them makes you laugh. And we thought, what would be really cool is if this was our track listing. Like, this receipt is the back of our CD.
How funny.
And so track 1 is snorkel. Track 2 is petroleum jelly. Track 3 is condoms. And so we were both so fired up, but again, he didn't really play bass at all. He didn't really. And so I went home and I just started writing, and I wrote the song for Snorkel. I brought it to school on a CD, and we listened to it like, this is our album.
Okay.
Now I got to go home and write the next one. So I wrote 5, and he was supposed to write 5. We split them up, and he only wrote 1 because he didn't know how to write songs.
Okay.
So he came back with, here's the lyrics and the melody I came up with. So I went home and recorded his song to bring it back to him and be like, look how cool this is. You wrote a song.
Yeah.
And then I think that's where we stopped. So we probably had 6 songs for that.
Were they actually about the items, or were they just named that?
They were basically using the items as a jumping off point to be funny about something else. So like the snorkel was all about me being in love with a snorkel. I honestly don't even remember why. And the dust mask too. The dust mask was about, I was singing an ode to my dust mask about how, oh sweet dust mask, protect my face from dirt and the stuff. But then the dust mask walks in on me like having an affair with a gas mask.
Nice.
And I'm like, please don't leave me. Like, I love you so much, dust mask. Like, the gas mask could never top you. And it was bizarre.
You should have if you would have brought that back, a new version in 2020 with COVID, you would have had a huge hit, man. That would have been like, this big. Dust mask, please protect me from COVID. You could have a whole new thing going on there.
But so what I was remembering going through this timeline is sometime between, what was our last thing? Sometime between 2004 and 2005.
Yeah, the last thing was, we had Accidental Beginnings and Broken Silence.
Right. So sometime after that, my mom and Dale got me a drum kit. Mm-hmm. So I had this little electronic one, and then I had like a programmed drum machine. But they got me a real drum kit, and the deal was you have to learn how to read music. So you have to be able to write on a staff.
Okay.
And even though it's like, Mom, nobody uses that. I don't need that in a punk rock band.
Yeah.
And she's like, still, I want you to have that skill.
Okay.
So I had to demonstrate to them, look, I wrote a melody, and here's how you play it, and then I'm going to read this one and play it on the piano. And they were like, okay, we get it. And so they're like, let's get you a drum kit. So I didn't have room for a drum kit in my bedroom, so I got rid of my bed. That was like the compromise, was my bedroom is just a recording studio now, and I sleep on the couch in the living room, but that's okay because my bedroom is like a sanctuary for making music. So in the corner of the room I had a drum kit, and I didn't know how to play it at all. I kind of had a vague idea from playing those little drum pads, but it took me a while. But by the time we got to this Ben Significant album, I was holding my own on a drum kit. And these recordings, like I can't find any of the Ben Significant songs. But they were really good. Like
up to that point, you feel like that was probably the best you had done.
Recording wise, yeah, it was. And the songs, like I said, they were goofy, they were fast, they were exactly what you and I were talking about. No effects, Lagwagon, the Vandals. It was like we're just goofy and funny and fast.
Right.
But the recording quality had really stepped up, and my drumming was like, wow, if I didn't know any better, I think this was a real drummer who knew what he was doing.
And is that the kind of music you were listening to at that time?
Yeah.
So that's why most of this early stuff is all pretty much punk rock that you're writing.
Yeah, and like up to that point, I hadn't really understood what I was doing with it, but Ben Significant was the first example of like, oh, this is a pure like one-for-one, like I listen to this style and I play this style now. It was me really figuring out how to do it.
Okay.
And so I was kind of proud of those songs, and I'm bummed because I don't think anybody has copies of it. And I just recently reached out to Trevor and said, did you save a CD of this stuff? And he went pouring through old hard drives, and he's like, sorry, dude, I couldn't find it. And so then Dale is my vault.
Yeah.
Dale keeps everything I've done. And he went through all kinds of stuff, and he's like, I don't know what that is.
Oh, no.
And so, yeah, I have officially tracked down the Snorkel song.
Okay.
And that's the one that I have a copy of right now.
Okay.
And even with that, it's like you can sort of hear where this was going.
You're going to have to let me, I'm going to have to hear that later. You have to send that to me, because that'd be really cool to listen to.
Another dream about the world. Through someone else's eyes, see me, then I'm gone now. I've got a great disguise. Snorkel now. It's just me and my snorkel now. It's just me and my snorkel now. It's just me and my snorkel now.
And so that was, again, me making all the music, but with the idea that when this album's done, me and Trevor are we're gonna like go tour or something. We're gonna play shows, and we're gonna put the CD out. But we never finished it.
Never did.
And
okay, and then that morphed into where this is kind of where I come into hearing things for the first time, which is the Rendlesham. Is that how you said it?
Yeah, Rendlesham.
Rendlesham Forest Conspiracy.
Yeah.
Which has a very, in my opinion, just like Silent Explosion, kind of has a very Tom DeLonge, Blink-182 punk sound.
Yeah.
To me, I think both of those do. So I mean, talk to me about how like. This so the Rendlesham started before Silent Explosion, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Based on the timeline you gave me here. So was this Rendlesham? Was that you alone?
Yes.
Still? Mm-hmm. And then you just kind of met
that
up
wasn't
with
the
these
name of
guys.
the band. That was the title of the album.
Oh, okay.
And so it was just Chris Lambert, the Rendlesham.
Oh, it was just okay.
Yeah. And so the bridge between Ben Significant and that was for a little while we were in this band called Dash Heart Dash. That was like.
Is that your email? That's your email,
yeah.
I guess, right? Okay.
And it's my publishing company.
Okay, I was going to say, I've seen that somewhere
when
before.
I copyright my songs now, to this day, it's Dash Heart Dash Music.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that started because my friend Trevor briefly dated this girl in high school who would make him mix CDs, and on the bottom of every CD she would draw like a heart with a dash on each side and colored in red. And we thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So we're like, and he started saying it out loud, like, to Trevor, like Jack Johnson, whatever CD, Dash Heart Dash, Dash Heart Dash. And
love it.
So it was like, we should call our next band Dash Heart Dash.
Yeah.
So I don't think we ever like did anything together, but in my head I was like, we've got Ben Significant. That's like our joke band.
Right.
But Dash Heart Dash is going to be like where we're serious. That's going to be where we play acoustic songs and we get sad about stuff and we really like share our feelings. And so I wrote a few songs by myself. It's like, this is for Dash Heart Dash someday.
And they weren't like punk rock. They were more...
No, they were like, me playing acoustic guitar. And then I started figuring out how to mix that. So then 2005 is when I really got into The Cure.
Oh, yeah.
I was listening to The Cure, and I had told you about Love Spit Love and Psychedelic Furs. And I was getting really into 80s music. And I thought, some of this slower Cure stuff, it's not acoustic, but it's not punk rock, but it's kind of blending those sounds. There's this other thing I can do.
Yeah.
And so that was what led to that album. The Rendlesham Forest Conspiracy was me like, how do I make a band that's like serious and dark and moody, but also still has some of those heavy elements that I like in the music I listen to.
And in your mind, were you hoping to eventually get band members for this band?
I don't think so.
You just thought you did one
Yeah,
band?
I think by that point, I had figured out, okay, this conceptual idea I keep having of me and Trevor are going to take these songs and go be a band with them, he's not really into this. Like, he's just doing it for me, and I knew that.
Yeah.
And nobody else seems to care or want to be in a band with me, and nobody's taking it seriously. So at this point, I was like, I'm just going to put out albums, I'm going to put a CD together and just put it out and be like, this is an album. And so
which is funny because you did the Rendlesham, and then you join, which I'll let you talk about in a minute, but you join Silent Explosion, or you start Silent Explosion, and you guys are a band,
right?
And then after that, as far as I understand, you haven't really done everything you've released. Pretty much has been just you, right? So you were doing the solo thing, and then you tried the band thing, and you're like, nah. And then you just kind of went back to doing your own stuff.
A Silent Explosion was a life lesson in 1,000 different ways. It was like I learned so much from that experience, which wasn't all that long. It was a year and a half, maybe.
Right.
But so, I put out the Rendlesham. I don't think I ever officially put out the Rendlesham Forest Conspiracy, but I would put it on MySpace, and start a MySpace music page. And I remember, I don't know if you have the thumbnail for that. It's like a purple background.
Yes.
And it's me
cut
out with like a galaxy.
Yeah, it's on my iTunes. Yeah, because you sent me a bunch of covers and I input them into my iTunes.
So that was like my MySpace photo, and it was like, here, this is the Rendlesham Forest project.
Who made that artwork? Because it's kind of cool looking.
I think my friend Shannon photoshopped it. Like she took a picture of me and cut it out. And put like some stars behind it, and I was like, that's really cool.
Hey, this isn't the same Shannon that'll sing on some of your songs, right?
No.
Okay, that's different Shannon.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. But so I only have these 2 songs. Is that all you ever released?
No.
There's a bunch from
There's
this.
a whole album of that. So I'll get you that.
We got to get
and
it.
You know what? You probably do have all the other songs on it, just on different mixes.
Oh, okay.
It's like, yeah, I think. Let me see.
I have a year or 12. And If Tomorrow Comes. That's the only ones that I have.
Someone's dancing up there, reflecting on the scenes, celebrating nightmares, imitating dreams. I need to learn to love more, to feel the faintest ghost. I've got a lot to ask for, thoughts that matter most. Can you feel it now? Please let me know if I can help somehow. Someone's fighting somewhere.
So Rendlesham Forest Conspiracy was Lay Low. Do you not have that one? Lay Low?
Nope.
Just One Kiss.
Nope.
Imitating Angels.
No.
If Tomorrow Comes.
I have If Tomorrow Comes. Yep.
Let's Dance.
Nope.
The Darkest Day.
No.
Hands On.
Nope.
Only I.
Nope.
Hop a Rocket.
That's
which later
Silent
became
Explosion. Yep.
A Year or 12.
I have that one.
And 3084.
Oh, that one's on the end of Soundproof Box.
Dale's version is. It doesn't belong there.
Oh, okay.
So if Dale made you a mix of that,
I have that on the end.
Yeah, that doesn't belong there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that was part of a Rendlesham Forest Conspiracy. That was the closing track on that album.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
yeah, I have all those songs if you want those. I thought you probably had them.
I want
places.
everything, man.
But so you see, the direct thread was that I had written that song "Hop a Rocket."
Yeah.
And I had been talking to these guys at school about starting a band.
Okay.
And always kind of tossing the idea around.
Okay.
And this guy Jeremy was like, "Yeah, we should start a band together."
Right.
And I was like, cool, I just wrote this song called Hop a Rocket, and like we should play it. We should be like, 80s space rock.
So long, and I've seen birds soar to land on
like my ideal was Flock of Seagulls.
Okay.
Flock of Seagulls, like, was it Haircut 100? Love Plus One.
Uh-huh.
Like all these like 80s like pop one-hit wonders,
right.
And then bands like The Cure and Psychedelic Furs, and that's what I wanted to do
for Silent Explosion.
Yeah, but when we started hanging out, what we bonded over was that we all loved Blink-182. Okay. So those guys were like, no, we got to be Blink-182, and so there was this immediate struggle between us, between me being like, yeah, I'm cool with that, but that's not the style of music I write anymore.
Right.
You know, I was writing that last year.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing this different thing now, and so we were always compromising. We're like, they want the songs faster and they want them simpler, and I wanted them to be more kind of drawn out and spacey. I wanted like 1 to 2 minute instrumental intros before the first lyric comes in. Yeah, and so that they just wanted bled fast
into punk songs is what they wanted to do, just kind of melodic.
Yeah.
Blink-182 stuff.
Right.
So from the get-go, you weren't all in with that. You were kind of like, this is cool, but I think I want to do something else.
Yeah, I think for the first few months, I kind of went along with it. Like, that's cool. We can do that as long as I'm in a band.
Yeah.
But then, because I was the one writing the songs at home and bringing them to them and saying, here's the new song, it was like, I'm trying to push in this direction, but then the parts they would add to it were like, this just brought it right back to that.
Oh, so you would bring to them songs that weren't like punk songs. They were songs that sound like Flock of Seagulls and The Cure, and they kind of shot them down, or they would add something to it.
Yeah, they'd be like, that's cool, and then they'd start playing along, and pretty soon we're playing it at 200 beats per minute, and it's like, this again. They were also really into MXPX, which I never listened to that. I don't even really know that band.
Oh, good band, dude.
Some other bands that I don't really like that whole pop punk fast scene anymore.
Right.
I like Blink-182. But even they moved away from that sound.
Totally.
That last CD they put out before they broke up.
Yeah.
Which would have been right around this time.
Which was the self-titled one?
Yeah. It was more serious and moody, and it was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to take us in this other direction. And so it was.
So at what point, I was going to ask this at some point because I'm curious. At what point? So you have all these influences. You're listening to 90s punk rock and early 2000s punk rock, which is influencing your writing style, and you're doing, but you want to go in these other directions. At what point does like the influence of like Brian Wilson come into that? Was this already playing in?
No.
So you didn't come into that.
That's
till later.
after this period. Yeah.
Okay.
So, to sort of speed through the Silent Explosion experience, we formed in October of 2005.
Okay.
And we started having weekly practices out in Los Alamos in a loft that our drummer lived in.
Nice.
And it was cool. Like I loved, we'd drive down there. It was raining a lot around that fall and winter.
Yeah.
And we'd drive out there in the rain, and then we'd play the 2 or 3 songs we had, and then we'd play a few covers, and then we'd drive home, and we kept doing that, and we just kept doing it. And eventually it was like, what are we doing? I think we had 6 songs by that point. Yeah. And it's like, we should just start recording these or playing shows or something. And I had recording equipment in my bedroom, but as a band, we never really did that. So we talked for a while about, we're going to record an album, when it was an idea that we had and we never did it. And I just going through some of these boxes of stuff, found we met with this guy in his house with the idea that he's going to record our band. He's going to record our album. And when we left, they kind of like made fun of him and laughed a lot. And it's like, nah, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And it like hurt my feelings for him. I was like, I feel bad. Like, that guy was really nice.
Right.
It's like this guy in his 50s probably who had a bedroom studio or something. And so a month's passed after that, and we still hadn't played a show. We still hadn't recorded. And so I called this guy, and I was like, you want to go out to lunch? We went to lunch at Burrito Loco, and I was like, I want to make an album alone with you. I want to do a solo album with you. And that was like sabotage. That was like a mutiny.
Behind your band members' backs, man.
Exactly. And and we never actually did. I think we had one recording session, and it didn't go great.
With that guy?
Like,
Okay.
But I was just getting impatient. It was like, I want to do, we need to do something, or we need to stop playing together.
Right.
And so I graduated from high school in June of 2006, and we still hadn't done anything but practice.
Yeah.
And then July of 2006, we booked our first show at Hunter's Landing.
Nice.
Which used to be in the Crossroads shopping center. And we were going to open for this band called the Giant Squid Show, who at the time had a pretty good local following, and they were weird. They were super influenced by Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart.
Okay.
So they played really weird music, right? And so we're opening for them, and we, all 3 of us were fairly well known in our circles. Like
right.
people knew us, and we, talked a lot, and we put stuff on MySpace. So we had a following going for a while. So when we played that first show, just this mass of high school kids showed up to see us play
for the first show.
For the very first show, and we played our opening set.
Yeah,
everybody was, really into it, and the moment we finished our set and they started setting up, everyone left.
Oh my gosh.
And from that point on, everybody was like, you guys don't open anymore, you guys are headliners.
Okay.
Because we can't lose an audience like this. And so Allie has this funny story. When we first started dating, she told me, I knew who you were back when you were in A Silent Explosion.
Yeah.
And just pure spite, I was like, I'm never going to a Silent Explosion show because they're the popular band that all the Girl Scouts like.
I think she tells that story on her episode.
Did she?
Yeah, she talks about that.
She did not want to be into that scene.
Yeah.
And now kind of regrets it. Just in hindsight, it's like, I wonder what those shows were like.
Right.
And she'll never know.
Yeah.
But
we had talked about that if she would have gone to those shows, maybe right now it would be totally different for you two.
Definitely.
You never would have met the way you did. You wouldn't be together all these years later. I mean, who knows, right? It's one of those.
Yeah, she got to know a different version of me.
Right.
And that version of me was probably very different. And but so my point is, we were never a great band. Like I don't think we were ever really solid, but we had such a loyal following that all of our shows were just like, man, we're just lining the street. It's just people are lined up to see this. We played Motions.
And the mall?
In the mall a lot.
Nice.
We had regular shows at Motions.
Nice.
And this is what, we were terrible at communicating with each other. Our drummer was like, go, go, go.
Right.
And so he would book shows, and sometimes he wouldn't tell us till the day of the show, like, hey, we have a show at Motions tonight. Okay. And we'd be like, you can't do that. Like, I had plans. Like, my family's going out to dinner. Or what.
Right.
It's like, no, we have a show. You got to take the band seriously, man. And so we started to really butt heads over our definition of, like, what was taking music seriously.
Right.
Because to me, it's like, dude, I am breathing music.
Yes.
Every moment of my day is writing songs, and I'm trying to expand and learn other instruments. And with you guys, it's just like the same stuff over and over. But if you book a show last minute and I'm not prepared to play it, I'm suddenly not taking music seriously. Right. And so, it was a tense time in that band.
Yeah.
And
how many live shows would you say that you played, give or take, during that whole
50,
time?
Maybe.
Dang, that many.
And it was in 6 months. It was from July of 2006.
That's nuts.
And we played our last show May of 2007.
Okay.
Okay, and this is our last song.
And how many songs did you guys have? Like, because when you got this recording, there's only 6 on it.
Yeah. So when we recorded this EP in a different guy's house in Tanglewood.
Okay.
And
nice.
Sometime in late 2005. Or sorry, 2006. So we played our first show July of 2006. December of 2006, my grandma died. And immediately the band was like, we have a show, like, we don't have time, like, you can't grieve.
You can't mourn, Chris. No mourning.
Right. So I ended up quitting the band over that.
Oh,
it was like, dude, my grandma just died. We were really close. Yeah. My whole family is coming together. Like, we're planning this funeral. We're going through her stuff. And they're like, it doesn't matter. You got to take music seriously. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. Yeah. So we played one final show, and we even announced it. Like, this is our final show.
Okay.
We're going to go on a break after this, and who knows what's going to happen. Yeah. But so we played Motions, packed it. We ended up winning the Battle of the Bands at Motions, which was like started with 10 bands down to 4, down to 2.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning that. And so, just drama by the end of 2006.
Right.
And then started 2007 working on the My Soundproof box songs.
Okay.
So that's when I had started Hancock. I was taking nothing but like music theory classes, music appreciation, the roots of pop rock and jazz. And I was like learning about all kinds of music. And that's when I got really into the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson.
Because that is a huge switch over in sound. Like you listen to that Soundproof box album and I love it, by the way. I mean, my only complaint about it is I wish it was a more polished, better recording quality,
right?
Because the songs are just fantastic, and I love all the different little. I don't even know what you're doing. I mean, there's all these weird noises that are in some of those songs. It's like, what is that? You know, it's like this guessing game.
And so I recorded that on my bedroom floor at my mom's house as a, like, I need to get away from this band. I hate being in this band. That whole album was just like, how weird can I get and how much can I explore different. I remember my mom and Dale got me my first upright piano, and we moved it into our garage. Okay. And when we had band practice the next time, they're like, what's that? Why is there a piano in your garage? And it's like, because I'm learning to play. And they were like, you got to take the band seriously, dude. And it was like, wow, they're really they're really sticklers for like anything you do that isn't just playing guitar is a waste of your time.
Right.
And for me, it was like, are you kidding me? I'm learning how jazz chords work together.
Right.
I'm learning all this stuff. And so that was a huge point of contention. And so we broke up. We were apart for about a month, and I was working on that album. I think I finished that whole album from the time that we broke up until early 2007. And then I started really regretting breaking up. It was like, man, we were on top of the world. We had that quick from July to December. It's like we had a huge following. We're winning Battle of the Bands. We're like the most well-known band in Santa Maria.
Do you look back now and still kind of wonder what you guys could have been?
No, because what happened is we reformed. So early 2007, I called them and we made amends and we made some agreements. It's like, let's stop doing this. Let's stop doing this. And we agreed to get back together. And that's when I felt like we really kind of figured things out, because then they started letting me bring in different kinds of songs. I wrote a song called To Hell with Barbecues and Awkward Breakups.
I have that one, but it's a live version.
We never recorded these. So there was a song called Things Like This Don't Just Happen to Guys Like Me. All of the songs started to have sentence long titles because I was listening to Morrissey a lot and the Smiths. I had one that was You're Not Exactly My Dream Girl, but High Five for Trying. And so I think I wrote a batch of 6 new Silent Explosion songs, plus the 6 classic ones that we were known for playing that people knew the words to. So we started playing. We played Slow Brew, and we started opening for some bigger bands. We played at the Bakersfield Dome and stuff, and we're playing some of these different songs, more progressive, heavier, and just stepping out of that style. And then we just imploded because we didn't like each other. It was just, we couldn't, it's like a bad marriage. We just can't make this work, even though we want to.
Irreconcilable differences.
Terrible, And you should talk to Dale about it sometime, because Dale was really at the center of some of these big blow-ups.
Really?
We'd get in a fight in my garage, and Dale would have to come out there and break, hey, calm down. And there were times where like they'd bring a friend over and try to strong arm like our money box, like where we were saving money as a band. It's like, you owe me that for having done this, and it was just big fights would break out. The cops got called a few times because they'd bring someone over and it's like they threatened to shoot up our house. It's like, we're gonna see what happens when you're sleeping tonight.
Yeah,
it got really dark.
That's ugly.
So, our bassist sold his bass amp and bought a motorcycle. So we were like, that's it. That's the end. And somehow we agreed, even though we were at each other's throats, we agreed to set it aside and play a final show with a fill-in bassist.
Okay.
And we had gotten asked to play this little festival they were putting on at the Royal Theater in Guadalupe, which has been abandoned for years. It's this empty theater, and they were going to film the whole show. Every band set was going to be filmed, and you could like buy a DVD at the end. And we're like, okay, that's going to be our last show ever. Okay. We're announcing that it's our last show ever. It was May 12th, 2007.
Okay.
Played our last show ever. It went great.
It did happen. You actually played.
We did.
Now that theater had been closed already, so they opened it up just for you guys?
It was abandoned for years, and somebody who was renting it out, or the landlord or somebody, agreed to let us have that in there.
Because there were shows there all the time. Propagandhi played there in the 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah, I just remember that it was... my whole life, it felt like there was never... It was just a grown field around it.
My friend Sabin went to that show.
Sabin Brock.
Yeah.
I know him.
Oh, do you know Sabin?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he went to that show and he threw meat at him because they were very
vegan?
Yeah, they're not just vegan, but they were like activists, like you're Satan if you eat meat kind of guys, and they would so it's just so funny. Yeah, but that's cool.
So that was our final show. That was we played that last show.
That was it. Did you have the DVD thing you were talking about or no?
What's funny is Dale chased that for years. He would follow up and be like, "Hey, we want a copy of that DVD." Yeah. Nobody ever gave it to him, so I don't know that it exists.
Okay.
Ali scene footage, somebody filmed it on a cell phone, I think, or maybe one of those little point-and-shoot digital cameras we had to carry before cell phones, before camera phones or whatever.
Right.
Somebody filmed it, and during the last song of our set, my microphone stand just started to collapse. It was just like slowly bending down, and so I just I just got down on my knees, and then pretty soon I was like laying down, and the audience was like cheering and stuff and singing, and then this roadie runs out to help us fix the mic stand, and it was the last line of the song, so I like got up and I like racing around with a Silent Explosion too. There was a lot of like energy in that band, and so if you saw an acoustic show that I played and then you went back and saw one of those, it's like I was covering every inch of stage, down on my knees, like I was just all over the
rocking
place.
Out.
And that set was like the apex of that. It was just we just destroyed, and then got off stage and was like, so goodbye, like
see you later.
I hate you so much. I never want to see you again. And I had already by that point, because I knew we were breaking up, that's when I started recording Two Guns.
Oh, Two Guns now. Because Soundproof Box is already done.
Soundproof Box was done by early 2006.
Okay, but you never released that.
I did. I put it on MySpace. So it was like the whole CD's on MySpace, but I'm not making copies of it for people.
Okay.
And that was really how I put that
one out. Before we go to Two Guns, there's two songs that I definitely want to touch on.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I love all the sound effects and stuff. I could talk for days about that. But there's the reason why on this album there's probably one of my favorite songs of all time that you ever wrote. Again, the recorded quality is not good. That's why at least that song I hope someday like you'll just re-record it. Yeah. And then there's also one of my least favorite songs that you've ever done.
Okay.
So the least favorite song is "I'd Like to Buy You a Smile."
Really?
I don't.
That's not the one I thought.
It just like I don't know. I don't like it, and I'm talking to your mom about that. And she's like, "Oh, I love that song." I was like.
Love, oh what a feeling. I'd like to buy you a smile, forever see your teeth gleaming, erase the wait for a while. I like the sound of a gun, scaring the fun away, away, away. You jump just from the feeling, or rest your eyes for a while. Kick your feet at the ceiling, enjoy your beautiful smile. And as you get older, love, never give yourself
I just don't, but there's a cool story behind that song, right? That's the one, life is a joke and death is the punchline.
So each line of that song spells out, if you go down the column, it spells out life is a joke and death is the punchline.
Yes,
right?
which I appreciate that aspect of it, because that's cool. And like Dale challenged you with that, right? That's the story I heard.
Possibly, yeah.
That Dale had said, I want you to write a song where it's like whatever, and you're like, okay.
Maybe.
So, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do that. Like if somebody says, hey, Ryan, I want you to take this acronym down and I want you to make a song. No way. But then you probably know what my favorite one is on there.
Is it the Infinite
Mirrors?
Mirrors?
Infinite Mirrors.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'd Like to Buy You a Smile was straight up like Rubber Soul Revolver. Like that was like my Beatles phase. That's and yeah, I think of that as a fairly like kind of innocuous song. It's like I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I thought you were going to say Death of a Super Saturated Mind, which is just kind of a bunch of noise and there's like screaming and weird. And so the concept of the My Soundproof Box album, which the title of the album was Here Lies a Hero.
Right.
And the band that wasn't really a band was called My Soundproof Box.
Okay.
And the concept of that was my grandma had just died, and it was a really dark time in my family. It was the first death we'd had, and it ended up following a succession of my uncle died 6 months later, and my grandpa died the following year. And so it's just like, here we are again, another funeral, and we're like going through boxes of stuff. It was a very dark time in my family. And also we had kind of splintered as a family. We stopped getting together for holidays and Christmases because my grandma had very severe dementia and Alzheimer's, and she was living in a home. So it's like we kind of stopped getting together.
Was she kind of the glue that held all you guys together?
Yeah, like all of our parties were at their house.
Okay.
And once she wasn't living there, we, like my mom and Dale sort of became like the new hub. Like everybody come to our house, and we tried our best, I think, as a family to be like, to keep everyone together, and we just were too different by that point. And there were, lots of problems in my family, and things had fallen apart. So those funerals were like, now we all have to get along and we have to be in the same room while we go through like boxes of old stuff and figure out what to sell. And it was just a heavy time. So I started writing these songs that were about death and funerals and that, but it was trying to be like silly about it too. So I was trying to inject this like,
so let's say your humor always comes through.
Yeah. And the Jester's song, the
Minstrel's Tale. Yeah.
Is
that
about
part at the end. That album that goes up and down.
My life is a big one, beginning with end and ending with middle. Bringing my friend, the jester was summoned to make us laugh. He fouled up his mission, so they cut him in half. Would start and stutter, he sputtered his cry.
You'll laugh at my humor, you'll see when I die.
The blade, but the jester still smiled.
That's about a jester being beheaded, and the whole song is just him, laughing in the face of death, and then it ends with this guillotine sound.
Nice.
And so the whole album was like, can I mix humor and death in some way?
Okay.
It was very weird, and it was definitely a trauma response. I think it was like, the band fell apart. My grandma died. My family hates each other. I've never been to a funeral before. It's like I don't know what. I didn't cry at my grandma's funeral, and I felt guilty about that. And I had graduated high school, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. It just felt like a dark time, and like I said, I was rebelling from being stuck in a box of like, we only write fast pop punk songs. And so for that album, it was like, no, I'm going to do whatever I want.
Right.
So I tried to write silly songs and slow songs and dark songs, and then really just discordant, dissonant songs that were like almost intentionally messy. So like, take that. Like, what do you think about that?
Right.
And I took it very seriously because I was listening to things like Pet Sounds for the first time. It was like, ooh, listen to this one guy came up with all these ideas. I could do that. Like, it just, if I take it more seriously. So I would go to class. My mom loves this era that I went through, because I would go to class. I was taking 5 music classes at the same time. My whole schedule was only music classes. So I'd go to a music theory class, and then I'd walk home. I'd have the walk from Hancock to my mom's, which was, 15-minute walk, and I'd have my little iPod Nano at the time, and I'd be listening to Pet Sounds or Summer Days and Summer Nights or something psychedelic from the 60s or whatever. And so I'd walk back home, and when I got to my garage, I'd sit down, and it's like, I'm going to try to make the most interesting, like sonically complex thing I can. Like I want it to sound like an orchestra played on this song. I want all these different sound effects and things. Like we talked about the guillotine sound effect I made with a butcher knife from our kitchen, a cutting board, a block of butter, and a piece of twine. And so like I recorded, me cutting the twine, and then I scraped 2 knives together, and then I slammed it and like cut the butter in half, and then I pieced those together on my little 8-track recorder on the floor.
Nice.
To make it sound like somebody got their head cut off. And I was really proud of it. It's like, that really sounds like someone getting their head cut off. And I did it with kitchen utensils.
That's awesome.
So like that started this phase in me where it's like, I want to see how many things I can make that are just, very unorthodox method. I want to see what I can do with this. And that bled into the next several things that I did, where it's me trying to make weird organic sounds,
which is awesome
somehow.
And obviously very Brian Wilson-y. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, especially in the Pet Sounds kind of era where he's doing that kind of thing.
Plays like a Culligan water bottle for a bass drum.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to do that. Like, and so my mom, so the Brian Wilson thing started because my mom got this book in at the library. It was called "Wouldn't It Be Nice?" The music theory of Brian Wilson or something. He also has an autobiography called "Wouldn't It Be Nice?" This was a different book. Okay. And on the cover of it, there's a picture of him from the 60s, and he's like leaning over, talking into a talkback mic. So he's like giving directions to the musicians in the other room, like the session musicians. Like, hey, play that part a little slower. When you come in with the drums, don't hit the snare quite so soon. Come in on the 4.
Yeah.
And they're like 1, 2, 3. And so they got this great picture of him wearing like a ringer tee. And he's like a little chubby, and he had long hair. And my mom got the book in, and she's like, "This looks just like you. Like, don't you think this picture looks like you?" And she said, and she's like, "Do you know about Brian Wilson? Like, do you know who that is?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Oh man, Brian Wilson was like the genius behind the Beach Boys. So like every Beach Boys song, this guy was going, and like he stopped touring with them." And so she told me a little story of what she knew. She grew up loving the Beach Boys when she was in her teen years. She discovered the Beach Boys in 1974 when they put out their like greatest hits compilation. Okay. And American Graffiti came out, and they were like, it was this wave of nostalgia she like got into that, which was an awkward, like at that time it was like,
that was kind of past their heyday, really.
Yeah. And she told me she would listen to a lot of Elvis records and Beach Boys records, and everybody at school was on to whatever the cool 70s punk rock thing to listen to was. And so she felt like kind of an outsider in that. So she was sharing with me her memory of what she knew of the Beach Boys. So she brought home this book, and I started reading it, and it's a very detailed breakdown of like, in Wouldn't It Be Nice, where he goes from the verse, he's playing straight thirds, and then in the bridge when he goes to this, he actually steps up the key of the song by 3 whole notes. And what he's doing there, it's called the tertian shift. And the reason that jazz musicians go from one key to this key that's this interval apart is because it brings out this emotion. And I just thought, whoa, every line of this book, I want to sit in front of a piano and figure out what they're talking about. Right. How did they do that? So that even made it into some of those later Silent Explosion songs we were doing. I was starting to do key changes in them, and I was starting to do things that were coming from reading about and learning about music theory.
Well, how about reading about the fact that Brian Wilson also was trying to go away from kind of the surf sound and going into like experimenting with things, and a lot of the band members, mainly Mike Love, were like, this is garbage. Let's continue writing what we're known for, what people like. I mean, it's very similar to what you're talking about with Silent Explosion.
I probably connected that, and I probably had an affinity for, like, this guy was, trying to step away from traditional, like, this is what our band's known for. And for them, it's like, we have so many hits. We're at the top of the world. Just keep churning out car songs and songs about girls in bikinis. And he's like, no. And so, by the time, 66, he starts recording the Smile album, the infamous Smile album that never got finished. And the lyrics on those are like, a diamond necklace played the pawn, hand in hand, some drummed along. And like the chorus is columnated ruins domino, and it's like, what is he talking about? Like, and they hated it. It did not go over well with the band. Yeah, but it was like, he's following his, and it was some of the best music ever made. Oh yeah, like to this day.
Well, even you listen to like Smiley Smile, which just has some of the album or songs
like a
from the album.
watered down version of what it was going to be.
And even some of those are great. Weird, some of them, like it's like Vegetables and like
but Good Vibrations. Good Vibrations changed
Yeah.
Like, that was a #1 hit,
Yeah.
and it changed popular music. Other
Right.
people started, what are they doing there? Where they've got this verse they recorded in one studio at one tempo, and then you can hear the tape splice into a chorus recorded with a different group of musicians in a different room across town
Right.
months later, and yet it came together to create a 3.5-minute
Yeah.
pop symphony.
Yeah.
It's just
It's such an awesome song.
that was what I was aiming for. It was
Okay.
like, with these songs, I want to just, the sky is the limit. I can
Yeah.
do anything I want without anybody telling me what
Right,
to
which
do.
is probably freeing.
So, yeah.
Right, so that's what you were doing with Soundproof Box. That's what you're saying. That's when you went into that?
Yeah, and
Okay.
and like I said, even some of the later Silent Explosion
Silent
songs,
Explosion.
I was already like, you know what I want to do with these? I know
Yeah.
you guys don't want me to, but I want the bridge to have piano in it.
Right.
And they're like, okay, if that's really what you're serious about, like, yeah. And like I said, key changes and figuring out how those, I never even knew you could change key in a song.
Right.
It was like, it sounds bad.
Right.
Well, it sounds bad if you don't know how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
You gotta learn, and that's what made Brian Wilson
Right.
such a genius. Is
Right.
he made very complex chord changes sound very simple and sing along,
Right.
and they're not, and that takes real skill to do.
Yeah, it's awesome. So the Infinite Mirrors.
Yeah.
I feared the worst was coming. I stood, my body shook. My courage is up and running. I'll take the chance and look. And if I see you there, I might die for the rush. Took too long to care, and now I've lost all the love. If I never wake up again, that's okay. Never wanna look again. I mourn the loss of.
I already said it's one of my favorites, but I mean, there's always the questions I have about. Well, first of all, I mean, what was that just having to do with your? Were you kind of in a depression, like over your grandma dying? I mean, because you're saying things like, what are you saying? You're like, if I never wake up again, that's okay. You know, it's just like some of these things. And if I see you there, I might die for the rush. And it's like,
Yeah.
what do you?
I think what I was just experiencing was trying to articulate the feeling of, losing
Okay.
somebody, and also growing old. There's a lot of weird lines on that album about like the wrinkles on my face and growing, and I was 19 when I
Right,
wrote it.
yeah.
And so for
Over the hill,
18
man.
maybe.
Yeah.
And so to me it was just like a sad, I don't think I was ever really depressed.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever been in a
Yeah.
space where it's like I can't get out of this, but I was sad and grieving, and grieving a lot of different things, the band that I lost and my grandma, and
Yeah.
also one of the weird things about losing somebody with Alzheimer's is that you haven't really seen the real them for years anyway.
Right.
It's like she was on a steady decline for like 6 years before she died.
Right.
And so when we lost her, even though by that point she was really not herself anymore, when we lost her, we really started to grieve the grandma that we used to know.
Right.
It was like we haven't
Right.
even seen her in years,
Yeah.
but it feels like we just lost her, because
Yeah.
when she was alive there was a chance she would like come out of it and
Yeah.
remember us and
Yeah.
and all this stuff. So
Well, which we'll get to that Connie Kill Sky song in a minute.
Yeah.
The Remember Me. That's who that's
Yeah.
about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that one's really.
So yeah, that was all in the same era, just
Okay.
me going through that stuff, and I think the Infinite Mirrors was just about insecurity and
Okay.
just like looking in the mirror
Yeah.
and not liking what you see and
Okay.
all that. And I remember very well going to a Denny's at night with my friend Trevor, who, once we graduated high school, we didn't see each other as often.
Right.
So we'd have to make time to hang out with each other. And we went to a Denny's super late at night. And he was telling me about something, and he was saying, when you have a mirror and another mirror and you face them together and you tilt and then you look and you just see infinite mirrors. He's like, what's that about? Like, he wasn't stoned, but it sounds like he was, right? And I don't remember why we were talking about it, but I knew
Yeah.
exactly what he meant, because my grandma had a candle holder that was mirrors that faced each other, and you would light the candle in the middle, and when you twisted it, it was like, whoa,
You see all
just
these
infinite
candles,
mirrors, and they
yeah.
would get darker and darker and darker as they
Okay.
went into just infinity.
Interesting.
And so I was like, that's a really interesting concept,
Yeah.
infinite mirrors.
Nice.
And I went home that night and I was like, I'm going to write a song
Yeah.
called Infinite Mirrors tonight.
Right.
And I don't know that the title even connects to what I'm
What it's
talking
about, yeah.
And I don't know, I haven't listened to that song in a long time.
Yeah.
But I do remember writing it and coming up with the chord change in the chorus and thinking, ooh, that's big. That's a good chord change.
Yeah.
It's the first song I ever played cello in.
Yeah.
Because I think by that point, Dale and my mom had started to just every birthday. It's like, how about accordion?
New
how about
instruments.
organ? Yeah, it's like they would just buy me because by that point I had all these things in the garage.
Right.
And they'd go to a pawn shop and they'd find like a decent priced accordion.
Yeah.
And be like, here you go. If you don't like it, that's okay.
Right.
Like just see
Right.
what happens with it. And almost everything they got me immediately made it into a song and then got set aside because it's like I did that now. I have a song with that in it. But with the cello, it was like I don't know how to play this. It's like how do you even get it to make sound that's not just screeching?
But that's the part that makes that I think that's part of the song that gets me emotional. It's the emotional part.
Yeah, and I think that song has this extended bridge where I'm just not doing anything but adding new melodic ideas.
Yeah.
It's just a break from the song itself, and you hear the cello going back and forth.
It's awesome.
And funny enough, that was a few years ago. I had a very deep conversation with Dale, and I said, you're in a relationship with my mom. He never wanted kids. He didn't want to have these kids move in with him, but that's the package deal he got when he fell in love with my mom. So for a while there was some resistance and we didn't really know each other well, but him reacting the way he did to my music when I started bringing it over was, for one, I felt like, okay, I know my relationship with this man now, but for him, he sort of saw a side of himself that when he started working at the library, when he got a real job, he had to set aside this dream of like doing art and expressing himself in that way, which he eventually got back to. But the time that he was at the library, he hated wearing a tie. He just did not like dealing with the public.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think he saw something in me that was like, I want to nurture that because I wish somebody would have done that for me, maybe.
Right.
I'm just
guessing
here. But he said The Infinite Mirrors was the first song I wrote where he was like, this is as good as any music I've ever listened to. And he said, I'm a connoisseur of music. His brother they go buy a brand new Jimi Hendrix album and tear the seal and then put it on the turntable and just inhale it. And the way that I did with music. It's like when a new album comes out, that whole day is going to be about taking it in. And it's something that I miss and that people only do today with Taylor Swift albums.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like Taylor Swift is the last artist that's putting out albums that when it comes out, the whole community is talking about it and everybody has listened to it that day. We're all excited about it. And it's just like for a while. And that used to be how every new album was.
That's because she's the Antichrist and she's got a hold on everybody.
Yeah, she's good at it. But so anyway, with The Infinite Mirrors, he was like, that was the first song he wrote where I thought, this is as good as any other music I've ever listened to.
Now, when you listen back to that album, I know you probably don't. I know, generally. But I mean, is that... Or maybe think back to when you wrote it or when you recorded that song. To you, was it like, okay, this is one of the best songs I've written for this album?
I think that I've thought every song I've written was the best.
Was the best? Okay, you didn't have any.
Yeah, each time I write one, it's like I'm more excited about this than I've ever been for anything in my life.
Okay.
And then when you play it for somebody for the first time and you kind of gauge their reaction, that's when you see like what the reward is, right? So it's like in my head, this could do anything. It's like this could be the next great song that changes the world. Remember in Bill and Ted where they go in the future and their song is the thing that changed the world and like brought about world peace. I love that scene because it like makes me emotional. Because I thought it's something so simple that like I write a song and it brought the world together, like changed everything. And so there's always the potential for that and you always fall short of it because then you're dependent on watching their facial expressions and like, did you love it? Is it the greatest thing? I joke with Allie all the time when I play her a song and she likes it. I'm like, yeah, but you're not crying. If you really, really were moved by it, you would lose control. And she's like, that's just not realistic to expect from people. But I tease her all the time about that. It's like, did you love it? Yeah, but you're not crying. So you didn't really.
You didn't love it that much.
Yeah, I think when I wrote Infinite Mirrors, it's like I knew it was a good song for me. And it sort of also broke from that album because a lot of the stuff I was writing for it was more like Baroque, I guess. I was sort of following in the tradition of like pop music that came from classical music and all of that stuff. And with Infinite Mirrors, it was like, no, this is a very modern sounding song. This could have been a Silent Explosion song if they would have let me move in this direction. It sounds very modern and stuff. And that was, I think, when I knew, okay, this whole album has this thread running through it. There's something about these songs that even when they're disjointed, they're coming together by this point in
Right.
the end of the album.
Right.
And really, like I said, when I would put albums together, my hope was that people would sit down and press play and listen to the whole thing.
Sure.
So I put a lot of stock into like, how does this flow, and
how does it transition into the next song?
Is it
Yeah.
something you want to keep listening
Right.
to? And one of my songwriting techniques for years that I still try to do to this day is when I have nothing for a new album, it's like, okay, if I press play, what do I want to hear?
Yeah.
Then I try to write a track 1. And then I listen to track 1 when it's done, and I'm like, okay, the moment that last note hits, what do I want to hear as a listener?
Nice.
Now I'm going to write track 2. And so I always try to think of that when I put an album together. And that album was probably the first one I put together where it was like, every song on this album is leading into the next one. It's very intentional, and it's supposed to be an experience.
Okay.
And like you said, in hindsight, recording it on my bedroom floor with the few tools I had available to me, some of that got lost in fidelity and all of that. But for what I had done prior to it, with the exception of the Silent Explosion EP that we recorded on real recording equipment, everything I had done, was leading up to that sound.
Okay.
So it was like the best I could do at the time, and it was better than anything I'd done before.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dale has brought up for years, I really wish you would record that album from scratch with like an orchestra.
Right.
Like have a string section.
That would be
playing stuff.
cool. I mean, have you ever considered that? Is that kind of like, that's the past, I want to leave that where it is?
I fantasize about those ideas because I do like the idea of it, but I just don't think the songwriting holds up to do it. I think it would really show when you got to certain points. Like, yeah, that was a weak cadence.
Right.
Like that was a weak chord structure. I like some of it, and like you said, I haven't listened to it in many, many years.
Yeah.
But when I think of my albums, because I don't listen back to my albums once they're done.
Right.
I listen to them one final time, and then I put them out into the world, and I move on. But when I do listen back, I'm always surprised that it's like, this is better than I thought, because in my head, what really sticks out are the things I didn't like about it.
Right.
It's like what sticks out about that album are the little moments where it's like, I wish I wouldn't have sung that note there. I wish I wouldn't have had that chord come in there.
Right.
I messed up at this part.
But you could almost, if you were to go back and redo it, you could almost fix some of that stuff, because so few people, I think, have even heard any of these songs.
Yeah.
Because you didn't, it wasn't like Two Guns actually came out as a CD.
Right. Yeah.
This one did, and you put it on MySpace, like you said. But really, I mean, how many people were listening to that when it came out?
Not many.
So for a lot of people, it would be all new songs by you.
Yeah.
And
that's true, and that's my fear is like, well, what if they think, wow, his songwriting really dipped in quality. Right? And it's like, no, these are old songs. I always have that fear with putting out old stuff, is that people are, and that's it's a self-imposed thing, because I don't have a huge audience. I don't have a lot of people just waiting, clamoring to hear the next thing that are going to be let down. But every time I do put out old stuff, I think, what if people who liked me listen to it and go, oh, he's not good anymore. Yeah. And then they ditch me, and who cares, right?
Right.
But that's the fear, is when I'm putting out old stuff, they're going to think, oh, this is not great.
Right.
So I'm done listening to this guy.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes I feel that way with bands where they put out too many albums, and I just think, I can't keep up. I'm just kind of done. Like Ryan Adams used to be one of my favorite songwriters. Yeah. And then he just started putting out like 5 albums a year, and they all kind of sounded the same. Yeah. And I just lost interest. Like I can't keep up. Yeah. And I feel like you've put out 2 albums since the last time I checked in. And then I listen, and it's like, this all sounds like,
It's right.
I think you could condense this into one great album and not 5 mediocre ones. And I feel like I don't want to do the same thing.
Sure.
It's like I want each thing that I put out to be a step ahead.
Right.
And so, but I would definitely consider doing it for me.
Okay.
That, like, I would maybe like to do it as just to see what I think of it.
Yeah.
And then give you a copy, give Dale a copy, and be like, there you go. Now I'm moving on.
Please do it.
So it's something I have definitely considered. And I have access to things like session musicians now who, I can get a string quartet across the world to play on my song for $60 and send it back to me that day. And it's like, that's amazing. You
awesome.
couldn't do that back then.
No.
And so, it's something I've thought about, and something that I also have fantasized about getting a Silent Explosion back together and being like, dude, can you imagine if this band played a set of Warp and Woof songs? Like, people would be like, this is not the Silent Explosion I remember.
Right.
They, like, really have been practicing.
Right.
And so there's an idea in my head, wouldn't this be so cool? And then the realistic part of me is like,
never going to happen.
See what happens, buddy. Yeah.
So what's with the whispering in that song, Infinite Mirrors?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread,
Do you even remember what you're whispering? Are you whispering anything at all, or is it just like?
If I'm recalling correctly, it's the Lord's Prayer.
Oh, okay.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what. But it's like 3 of me, so I recorded it.
Yeah.
I did it like a row your boat round where you each started at a different point and they overlap. It was like Our Father who art in heaven, and the next one starts with.
Okay, yeah, because it sounds like a bunch of jumbled in it. Okay.
And I was really into that idea at the time of the song is playing on top. What can I do in the background that gives this some space and texture? And so there's probably one coming in the left ear, one coming in the right ear, one down the middle, and they're all one's got reverb on it, one's got chorus on it, and so I think that's what it was.
Kind of gives it like an eerie sound. It sounds like ghosts talking in the room or something, kind of a thing, Okay, so then is the Connie Kill Sky? That's before Two Guns? Right, so Connie Kill Sky and Secret Agent Polar Bears happened before Two Guns, around the same time as Two Guns?
Yeah, so it's Connie Kill Sky was February of 2007.
Okay.
So this is while I just finished my soundproof box. I was back in A Silent Explosion with that batch of new songs, and this friend from Hancock, we were in an electronic music class together, was like, hey, you want to play some stuff together? You want to maybe we could, remember the Postal Service?
Yeah.
They sent all their ideas back and forth on CDs. And it was like, what if we just email each other? I'll email you a synthesizer part, and then you put drums to it and email it back to me. So in February of 2007, we did a song called Prologue. It was just an instrumental track that was like, I'll play some chords on the synthesizer. I'll send it to you. Right. He added some electric guitar and sent it back. I added bass, sent it back. He added drums, and then pretty soon we had this kind of cool completed instrumental track.
Right.
And I thought, let's do it again.
That's the first song I ever heard.
That's the first of mine that you heard?
Of the CD that you guys had made me, of the mix of stuff to show to me, that's what it opened with. That instrumental.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it's kind of cool. It starts kind of, and then the guitars come in at the end, and then it's kind of, and then it went in. I don't remember what the second song was. Probably, I think The Dirt. Was the next song. Yeah, so it's kind of a switch over.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, so that one's the instrumental. Is there only 3 songs on that, or was there more?
I think we ended up doing 5 songs.
Okay.
But what happened was, and this has been a repeating pattern in my life, I got so excited about how cool that was and how easy that worked out. It's like by the end of the day, we had a completed song that could go on a CD. So the next day, I sent him this demo for Remember Me, which is a song I wrote years before about visiting my grandma in the home she was in, and she didn't know who we were.
How's it going? How's your day been? Tell me something. I don't know. Talk to me. Please do something. Stay with me. Please don't go. Torn apart from the inside. Will it change? I don't know.
For a long time, we would go there and she'd kind of recognize us. Her eyes would light up, but she didn't know our names. She thought my mom was her sister.
Right.
She thought her other daughter was her other sister. And she never knew who we were, but my mom always loved... She always told me how good looking I was every time.
Oh, really?
She's like, who is this good looking guy? And she was like, isn't that amazing? Even without knowing who you are.
Right.
She's like, look at how cute he is. She loved that. And so
That's awesome.
I remember just coming home from that one day and writing a little song in my bedroom.
That's emotional,
about,
that song.
Yeah, Do You Remember Me? And
does it say, or am I white noise? What does it say right there? I was trying to figure that out.
Do you remember me?
Or am I not?
Or am I like time?
Like time, okay.
Gone once it is over.
Okay, yeah.
Basically just am I, like
Yeah.
sand falling through a hourglass or something.
Right.
And so I'd come up with this very basic sketch for it, but I never finished it.
Mm-hmm.
So years later, I was like, what if I turn that into a, I do piano on it, and then I send it to Andy, and he makes these electronic things and sends it back, and then I do electric guitar over the top. And so we sent that back and forth, and I could tell by the end of that song, he was kind of burning out and just not excited for the project anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, we already did the song. And it's like, yeah, but I want to do a whole album right now. And so we did Remember Me, and by the end of that, I was like, yeah, he's not really playing along as well.
Right.
And so I wrote a song after that called Goodbye Holly.
I have that one.
And that was, I think I wrote the whole song, sent it to him, and he just never did anything with it.
Okay.
So he sent it back to me unfinished, and I
Yeah.
added my own stuff. I got a friend to sing on it, I think.
Okay.
If that's the song I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And there was another song for that called Incarnadine Our Skies.
I never heard that
And
one.
there was another one.
I only have those three, chapter 1,
Okay.
2, and 3.
And they're not good.
Yeah.
They're mainly like incomplete ideas.
Right.
But yeah, that was all within the span of February of 2007.
Right.
By the end of that month, it was like, yeah, he's not replying anymore.
Yeah.
We got, 2 songs out of it, and then
Yeah.
half of another one, and then some demos.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, going into March 2007, I'm still with the Silent Explosion. We played our last few shows in April, and then that Guadalupe show in May. And by that point, I was like working on 2 Guns.
Okay.
So
then, like, Conical Sky and the Polar Bears is kind of in between there.
Polar Bears is another project Andy and I started later that year.
Is that the same guy from Conical Sky?
Exactly.
Okay, because it's a similar sound with the electronic.
It was like,
and...
6 months had passed or so, and it was like, hey,
Okay.
that was really cool what we
Yeah.
did in February. Remember?
Yeah.
Like, let's get back on board. And so that's when
Okay.
he sent me the instrumental for Windshield.
Just stare at me while I stare at you. Give me some time to decide which words to use. 'Cause I don't know if your ears will have a clue. But there's no one else to tell it to. I can't talk to you, you won't talk to me. But you always put me down so graciously. What an empty future that faces me. Not exactly the kind you see in dreams. Do you still dream of me? We could move till our lips and tongues collide, cutting off all the world from the love inside. We could put all our strength into our teeth, save our thoughts for the next time we don't speak. We could sit here drifting worlds apart. I could pray that you'll never find a better heart. I could run and bury my head in the sand. 2 bodies meet in the driver's seat, and now for the first time in 7 weeks, I remember what it feels like to be complete. Now more than ever.
I had just gone through my first, like, big high school breakup.
Okay, I was going to ask you about the
Just-
lyrics, because it sounds like it's about making out in a car. Is that what the song's
No,
about?
no, it was about sitting next to each other in the car and not talking to each
Okay.
other and just, like,
But it
wishing
said something,
that we
our
could-
lips and tongues collide.
Like, I think I'm proposing that. I'm saying we. That's
Oh,
what
like
we-
it's talking.
What I wish we were doing.
Okay.
No.
Oh,
I wish we were.
gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I think it was after. So that we started and completed the Secret Agent Polar Bears EP before I put Two Guns Out.
Okay.
So it was like towards the end of the Two Guns
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
But same guy as
Yeah.
Connie Kills Sky. We did
Okay.
3 songs together. Windshield was the first one.
Uh-huh.
Squeeze was the second one. And these were within a day of each other. It was
Right.
like, send me an instrumental. I'd send it back. He'd send it back. By the end of the day, that one's done.
Okay.
It's on MySpace.
Yeah.
Next song was Squeeze. I wrote
Yeah.
and finished that. Sent it back. It
Yeah.
was on MySpace. And then we
Yeah.
did one called Tonight.
Yep.
That I don't think we ever put up because
Okay.
we finished it and was just like, he's already moved on again.
Right.
He's sort of getting hard to communicate
Yeah.
with. He's not replying to my emails fast.
Yeah.
And so those were the 3 songs we
And
did
I have
with
all
that
3 of
band.
those.
Okay.
And I love Windshield. It's one of my favorites. But
Yeah.
but Squeeze.
Take me for a swim, the depth is closing in. I wanna take a plane with a name like Mary Jane. I wanna stab you in the heart, then laugh and call it art. I never wanna end, I only wanna start. But the sun is such a bore, it rises like a chore. Maybe I'll move on, but I'll be back for more. I'm a villain with a smirk, a hero at work. You're dancing in your dress, but you're swimming in your hurt. And I can take it so much farther now. I wanna squeeze you till the sadness all comes out. 'Cause isn't that what a life is all about? Making lemons out of lemonade somehow.
Love that song.
Yeah.
I love the fast lyrics and the things you're saying, like I'm gonna stab you in the heart and laugh and call it art.
Yeah.
Like it's just so funny, and it's do, and then the chorus is just like, especially at the end, where the drum,
yeah.
I can take it, and you start like going off on it. It's
Yeah.
like, I love that song. It's
Yeah.
just fantastic, and it's a bummer that that's all you guys ever did was those 3 songs.
I know, yeah, and so Windshield weirdly became like a minor internet hit.
Okay.
Which I found out way later.
Yeah.
Some people had downloaded the MP3 from MySpace and shared it to like a message board. Remember when like message boards
Oh, yeah.
were where we'd communicate?
Oh, yeah.
Before Reddit and all of these. So there was some message board where somebody was like, "Oh, hey, you guys like bands like Hello, Goodbye, and like whatever those electronica bands were.
Yeah.
Check out this song." And everybody was like, "Who is this? Like, what is this band?" And like, "Oh yeah, it's called Secret Agent Polar Bears."
Yeah.
So what happened was that file got passed around a lot, and a lot of people in 2007 had it on their iPod and didn't know who we were, didn't know where the song came from. And years later, I got an email. Well, first I Googled Secret Agent Polar Bears to try to find one of those tracks and found all these discussions about it. Like, we
Interesting.
blew up, and I had no idea.
You didn't
But
know till
just-
after the fact.
Yeah,
like way
but
later.
then just a few years ago, somebody messaged me on LinkedIn and said, "Are you the Chris Lambert that was in Secret Agent Polar Bears?" And I was like, "Who is this?" And he was in, I'm not kidding, he was in Iran. And he was like, "I had your song Windshield on my iPod."
Dude, does that just blow your mind when you hear something like that?
And he said, "I was obsessed with it. All my friends were obsessed with it. And I can't, the file got corrupted. So when I try to play it," he's like, "I don't even remember what it sounded like, but I was obsessed with it. Do you still have
funny.
it?" And I was like, "Dude, not only do I still have it, there's more songs from that
Oh,
group." So I
nice.
emailed them to him. So that was really weird that like we didn't even realize. And I messaged Andy to let him know. Did you know this song was kind of a hit on this
So
forum,
cool.
this web forum? And I mean,
man.
it is just in the context of what it is. It's a
Right.
very catchy pop song that could have been on the radio at that time.
Yeah.
My voice has that auto-tune flutter on it that was really popular back then,
Yeah.
which I think sounds dated now, but for the style that it is,
Yeah.
it's like, that you put that on, and
Yeah.
it's like, this sounds like anything that was on the radio
Yeah,
in
it
2007.
was really cool. Yeah, some of the better ones. So then we get to Two Guns, which is obviously your first like official release album, right? Like
Yeah.
officially. But before that, I have a song called Zac Efron. That's also at a 2007 timestamp. So I don't know when that comes in.
What's the deal with Zac Efron? I don't like his face. To me, looks like the kind of guy who would knock his wife all over the place. But I guess if you like that kind of thing, you won't mind that he's got a tiny thing. What's the deal with Zac Efron? I don't like his ways. To me, he seems like the kind of guy who would punch his wife right in her pretty face. But I guess if you like that kind of stuff, you won't mind that he's putting from the rough. What's the deal with Zac Efron? Is there something I don't see? 'Cause even my own mother thinks he's prettier than me.
But I got to know what you were thinking with the writing of that one. You're kind of portraying Zac Efron as a wife beater.
Yeah.
And, I don't like his face,
Yeah. I don't remember it well, to be honest. But okay, so 2007. So after A Silent Explosion breaks up, May of 2007, I was like, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do next, and that's when I discovered this guy Elliott Smith. I didn't know who that was before.
Okay.
My mom started bringing me home CDs from the library, like, hey, check this one out.
Right.
And so I listened to it, and I was like, whoa, this guy, like, I think we talked about this in my episode too. He came out of this band called Heat Miser.
Yes,
we
did. Yes.
Grunge, post-grunge sort of indie rock band, and then he left the band to record this little like 4-track acoustic demo and put it out, and it did really well. So he just stepped aside and started putting out solo acoustic music, and all of his shows were like, you could go on YouTube and just watch a whole set. He had died by this point, but I didn't know that.
Oh, he's dead?
Yeah, he died in 2003.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so when I first got into him, I was reading about him on Wikipedia, like trying to learn who this guy was, and I scrolled, and the next section said death, and I was like, he's dead? Like, it just broke my heart. Like, how did I not know about this? And so anyway, you could go on YouTube and watch full sets he had played that people had videotaped, and it was just him on an acoustic guitar sitting on a stool.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. I don't know why, but that's never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I could play a whole show just sitting on a stool.
Don't
with
need
an acoustic
anybody
guitar.
else. Just,
Don't need and we did that a few times with The Silent Explosion. We would play... we played a cover of the Pokemon theme song that I would just do by myself.
Gotta catch 'em all.
Yeah. I would play by myself while the drummer was like getting ready for the next song, like setting up whatever new symbol or something. So that would be a little acoustic break. And then later we had a song that I had written called Chris Can't Lick His Balls. I don't know if you ever heard that one. And it was just me. It was a sad acoustic song that was like, why can't I? And then the chorus was lick my balls, lick my balls, lick my... And then I would just chant it, and then the audience would sing along, and it was just a whole thing about why can't I lick my balls? So, and my grandpa went to one of those shows, and afterwards he's like, I can't believe some of the stuff you were saying up there. I'm like, I'm sorry. But it did well, and to the point where the last few times I played it, the audience would sing along with it. Yeah. And we played it at our very last. So I already knew that I could sit on a stool with an acoustic guitar and just hold the audience down. Yeah. But that was the first time I thought I could play a whole show like this. I don't need a band at all. Right. So that was when I stepped away from, okay, I'm going to rebel again against what A Silent Explosion was. And it's just going to be me and an acoustic guitar. So I can do whatever I want on the album. I can put orchestras and anything I want. But I have to be able to play them acoustic by myself. Okay. So that's when I started... with the Two Guns song. I played my very first solo show in June of 2007. Okay. Silent Explosion had only been broken up for a month, and I played in the parking lot of Moody Brews, which used to be on Better Radio in Broadway. Yeah. And, there were people standing in the parking lot waiting to see what was going to happen, and they didn't know what I was going to do. And after that, I started booking regular acoustic shows until I slowly built a following. And so I didn't have a set. It's like I'm just starting to write these new solo songs, and I don't want to play Silent Explosion songs.
But this is prior to Two Guns releasing.
Yes, right. Exactly. It came out at the end of the year. I was working on it, recording it in the garage, but I didn't have a set, and I didn't want to play those songs. I didn't want to do too many covers, and I didn't want to do any of my old songs, no My Soundproof Box songs, no older stuff. So I started writing songs like Zac Efron, which was like, this is a joke.
Right.
It's clearly a joke. But because I have an acoustic guitar and it sounds serious,
yes,
people listen. They really like lean in. And then when the lyrics would come, like people would start giggling.
Right.
And that again became like, okay, I can do this. It's almost like a stand-up comedy thing.
Well, and that's what's funny about it is like the sound of the song sounds very dark and serious, but then you're like, what you're saying in the words is hilarious, right? So it's just like this contradiction almost.
It was probably the time period where he blew up because of High School Musical, and all of a sudden he was the hot... He's the same age as me, and he was like the hot guy. And he also grew up in Arroyo Grande. So locally, people were like, I knew him. Oh my God, he's so hot. And so everybody was always talking about how hot he was. You'd go on a girl's MySpace page, and she'd just have like a shirtless picture of Zac Efron as her bio. Yeah. Like, what is this? He's taken over the world. And it's like... And so I was like a little like... jealous about that. It's like everybody's in love with Zac Efron, and I remember my mom saying he is really cute. Oh yeah. And I was like, wow. And so the last line of that song is, even my own mother thinks he's prettier than me. But so I would just play that at coffee shops. I'd just pull out the guitar and like play this sad acoustic song, and then it'd be like, what's the deal with Zac Efron? And then it was about, I don't like his face. To me, he looks like the kind of guy who would knock his wife all over the place. And I mean, he did too. I thought he does not look like a nice guy. Right. He looks like a jerk. Yeah. And I never met him. I don't know anything about him. But it was a comedy relief between the serious songs I was playing. Were little songs like that. And I started writing. I wrote a song called "Your New Boyfriend." Yes. I don't know if you heard that one.
Oh, we're gonna get to that one.
Okay, I don't remember when that was.
I think that's on. I have that in here somewhere. Is that on? That's not on Ding Dong, is it?
No.
Okay, I have it in here somewhere.
And some, the recording.
Oh, Toonie Goldman. Is that on that one?
No. That was 2009.
I have it in here because that's one of the funniest songs you've ever written. So
that and Zac Efron and things like that. Whatever recordings you have of those were probably just like, I don't have a recording of this, so I need to sit down right now and just very quickly, because those were strictly live songs. Right. To me, those were just songs to pull out as a joke in the middle of a set, and I never really recorded them, but if I wanted them on MySpace, it's like, I got to sit down and record it, and I don't want to do anything...
because they're both like serious. A minute long. Like
they're
short
just little
songs.
joke songs. Yeah, and so that's what Zac Efron was.
Funny. All right, so going into Two Guns now, this, which is great. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it all these years later. I think there's some fantastic songs.
Again, I haven't listened back to it. My memory of it is like, it's okay for what it is.
It's kind of an up and down too. Like as far as because like you got Change the World, The Dirt are like very. Dark sounding, kind of depressing, and then you go into something like Dear Kitty, where it's I want to party like the Elephant Man. It's just like this whole like dancey kind of. It's like, what is this? Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. There's a few standout songs on. Well, The Dirt is good, and I kind of made my own notes here. But whenever you sing that lyric, I'll see you in church on Sunday. Yeah. I get chills every time I hear that. Really? I don't know why. Yeah. I have no idea why. It just sounds. I don't know what it is, but that song, like, why don't you, do you remember the kind of the point to that song?
Vaguely. So I wrote The Dirt when A Silent Explosion was first breaking up, and it was like, stylistically, I want to step as far away from that style we used to play as I can. And like I said, I was listening to Elliott Smith, and then getting really into Elliott Smith led me into the Beatles for the first time. I always knew the Beatles. Everybody grows up with the Beatles in their veins. Right. But I never delved into the Beatles, and so I really got into their back catalog and all this stuff I had never heard before, and that influenced a lot of the direction of this album. Things like, little accordion parts that sounded like Sgt. Pepper's or something. And my mom had gotten me an organ around this time, so it's like, I got to figure out how to play this electric organ. And anyway, so putting together this like elaborate sort of thing. The Dirt was the first one that I like wrote and finished and thought, this is pretty cool. And vividly remember playing it for my mom and Dale, and they were like, huh. Like it was, I was entering, they were having, every year they have the New Times Music Awards, which they make a big deal out of in Slow. It's like, you gotta play, you gotta vote for our band and stuff. And so I submitted 3 songs for that. And I don't remember, it was probably the Infinite Mirrors. And maybe something else from, I don't even remember. And then The Dirt was the last song, and my mom was like, are you sure that you want to put that song on there?
Was it because of the sound or the lyrics?
I just think she thought it was not a strong song. It's like, I don't really understand. And I think in retrospect, she kind of, because she's brought it up to me. She's like, I remember when you first played us that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But now, looking back, it's like, it's a pretty cool song.
It is.
And it really took off live. So when I would play that song live, I'd set these bells down on the floor.
Oh, for the ding,
you
ding,
step
ding.
on the top. There's little buttons on the top of them. And so I'd play it acoustic, and you get to that part, and I go ding, ding with my foot.
Yeah.
And it really, like, the audience was like, what? Like, people were like, I started playing a lot of things with my feet after that.
Right.
It was like, I'd put a bike horn on the ground and step on that. Just anything that would make noise, because it distracted from, it's like, I'm just standing here alone with an acoustic guitar.
Right.
Well, now I'm stepping on a tambourine in rhythm.
Right.
So it was like, I'm filling out this sound a little more. So I think she appreciated The Dirt more once she heard me play it live, maybe. But I was really proud of, at the end, there's twin guitar solos that were like, I was going for like a George Harrison sound, which I had never tried to do before. So I was really trying to expand what I could do. But from what I remember, the lyrics of that, and this was also when I was breaking into a new era of my songwriting, when I realized a song doesn't have to just be a one-for-one, like, this song is about Zac Efron.
Right.
It doesn't have to just be about one topic. The lyrics can be poetry, and they can mean different things. And when you put the lines together, even though they might have come from different ideas, they sort of tell a story to everybody differently. And I remember thinking a lot of those lines were me thinking about my mom's sister, Teresa, my aunt, who my whole life had an on and off drug problem. That she struggled with. She died young, and I remember around this time we were on the outs with her. She wasn't allowed in our house. It's just, my brother had run away and went to live with her for a while, and we were just not talking to her. And I remember thinking, the next time I hear from you is going to be that you're dead. I'm just going to get a phone call that you've died and you're buried. And so I remember, I don't remember the lyrics specifically, but
well, it almost sounds like a murder, and it's or a suicide, and then like I put down the gun and hit the dirt.
And I think that was metaphorical. I think if I am waiting for the call that tells me you are gone. Your number has been drawn, and come to join me in the dirt. Which again is coming from this era of grieving and death and going to a lot of funerals. When I was recording the Two Guns album, my Uncle Bob died unexpectedly. I think he was only 56 or 50. 56. And it was 6 months on the heels of my grandma's funeral. So we were like, we're just losing family members left and right here. So a lot of that influenced the direction of some of these songs. But I remember just thinking, I'm still very much in death mode and feeling like somber and all that. I don't know. And like I said, it wasn't one for one about one specific thing, but a lot of the lines were referencing my relationship with Teresa. Is like, I expect that the next time I hear about you, it will be that you're dead. It's not going to be good. But then the chorus is more of almost like a love song. It's like room for two, all the world's underground, I'll be whole when you're around. It was like about two people being buried together, which had
like
nothing to do
a morbid love song.
Which had nothing to do with the lines about my aunt and stuff. So it was really just me trying to figure out how to write a song in my own way that was more like impressionistic and poetic. So,
but is there like is there a concept to the album? Like, is it like Two Guns? I mean, I know there's multiple songs you hear the word gun in the lyrics. So I got the title from there's a ghost town in Arizona called Two Guns, Arizona. And when I probably found the Wikipedia page for it, and I thought, that's such a cool name. Just like, you want to go to Two Guns? And so in my head I thought, it would be really cool
is if right off the heels of a silent explosion, getting accused left and right of, you don't take music seriously, man. Like, you're not serious. It's like, what if before the end of the year was out, we just broke up in May, what if before the end of the year I put out a double album? And so my idea was 2 guns, disc 1 and 2. It's one, each one is a gun, and it was 2. I had made the discs. It's like they're black, and each one had a 6-shooter on it. And you would unfold the CD case, and you'd have 2 CDs facing each other. And I just thought, man, a double album like the White Album would be such a statement. It'd be like, you think I don't take music seriously? Look at this volume of output. And, but what ended up happening was all the songs for the idea I had for 2 Guns Volume 2 was just that it was going to be very like avant-garde. It was going to be, the first disc was going to be the more pop songs, and the second disc was just going to be noisy and experimental and weird. And so I did maybe 12 songs for it that weren't real songs. They were just messy. And I remember talking with Dale about it, and it's like, is this a good idea to put this out? It's like, is anybody going to ever listen to disc 2 more than once? It's almost just like a collection of oddities, and they're very strange, and they don't go anywhere. They don't connect to each other. And I think we decided in the end, it's going to be too expensive to press a 2-disc album anyway. Nobody's going to listen to the second one. Let's just let 2 Guns will just be a single volume. And so that was, the name was supposed to be a reference to that it was going to be a double album.
But you didn't want to call it 1 Gun after that.
No, I still like the title 2 Guns.
Because I think about, like, I mean, I know you're a NoFX fan, but their last album that they just put out, their final album, is called Double Album. But the one before that was called Single Album. But when you look into the reasons why, I guess it was similar to what you're saying. The last album was supposed to be called Double Album, was supposed to be 2 discs, and then the second disc, I guess, was a little more different sounding, and it didn't get a good reaction. I don't know who they played it to or whatever they did, so they just decided to only do the one. But then I guess by the time they decided to break up or whatever, they're like, you know what, let's just release all those other songs. And then they still just called it Double Album, even though it was only 1 disc. And it's like 30 minutes long. I mean, it's typical NoFX. They don't write long albums. So it's just kind of funny. It's kind of similar. So the Dirt for me, I think Missing Pretty Girl Syndrome is my favorite song on that album.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
25 years old, held up with bow. They say they still don't know where the dying go. Keenly dressed in red, like the paper said. Conservatively fed. I can't believe she's dead. I'm so afraid of what I'll find waiting on the other side. And after all, we're dead inside. The speakers spoke, the living cried. Their hands were tied.
That's my favorite one.
And that's very Elliott Smith, like finger picking acoustic guitar, like that I was just starting to learn that I could do. And the Dirt, I think, is a good example of the chorus, or sorry, the bridge of the Dirt is literally me like clanking pots and pans in our kitchen.
Is that actually what you're doing?
Yeah, just banging forks and knives on pots and pans, and it's way off in the distance, so it's not like, it's not like right in your face, but it's like just this distant clanging sound before it goes into the outro, which is just a guitar solo. But that's carrying over from the My Soundproof Box thing, where it's like, I should just incorporate things that are not typically musical into this, so I can say, on this album, Chris Lambert plays acoustic guitar, electric guitar, piano, etc., and forks, pots, pans, knives. A list of like everything that made noise on that album. And there's on Bubblegum Blue Jeans.
There's I was going to bring up.
Grab my keys and we'll drive down to your favorite memory.
We slow dance under that old oak tree.
I can wear my bubblegum jeans.
And I'll forget everything.
We'll catch fireflies.
Until they match our eyes.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
Hello, it's so nice to see you
Good
again.
night, I'll see you tomorrow.
Hello, it's so nice to see you again.
You can hear me open our kitchen drawer and just pull out a handful of silverware and just kind of
Yeah.
clank it around
Yeah.
lightly. And
Yeah.
there's probably other stuff in there too.
Yeah, so Bubblegum Blue Jeans is one of the two songs you did with the Shannon something.
Yeah.
Right? She had the vocals.
Bedrogi, yeah.
Bedrogi, okay. And does she still do music? Are you still in touch with her at
She
all?
does, yeah. She's in like a shoegaze band now up in San
nice.
Francisco.
Okay.
And yeah, she moved to San Francisco not long after she graduated.
Okay.
And around this time we'd play Hunter's Landing and she would open.
Yeah.
And then I'd play and she would come up and sing a few with me.
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't you just come to my garage and sing on some of this album?
Right, right.
She was the first person I ever had come over and like
Okay.
add something
Nice.
to a home recording.
That's
that
cool.
way.
And you guys, I have another song that you both did called Mosaic Perfection.
So that's her song.
Oh, that's
so that's
her
one
own
of her
song.
I
Okay.
love that song.
But are you on that song?
No.
How do I have that song then?
I recorded my own version of it.
Oh, you covered it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's my
gotcha,
cover,
gotcha,
and
gotcha.
at the very end, I strung in her original.
Okay, okay.
But I told her, I said, that song brings me back to this time in Santa Maria, like 2007 Santa
Mm-hmm.
Maria, where every weekend we'd line up at Hunter's Landing, and it's like whoever's playing, that's the activity of the town.
yeah, that was the
It's
scene,
like,
man. That
and
was where was that?
I said, it just brings me back to that, and I miss it so much. And I said, I love that song. I don't know what she was thinking when she wrote it or where it
Yeah,
came from, but I said,
yeah.
it's so like pretty. Do you mind if I record a cover? And she's
Nice.
like, go for it.
That's cool.
So I had to reverse engineer, like, what is she even doing
Yeah.
in the guitar part? And
I think it's cool. I think the two of you together sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point, like, it
She
would
has
have
a
been cool if
great
you
voice.
guys would have, like, collaborated on a whole album. Would have been
Yeah.
awesome. Because, like, Bubblegum Blue Jeans, I love that song, but it's like a minute long. It's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like way too short. It just seemed like it should have been more.
she
to it.
actually came over to sing on Island.
Right.
That's Shannon Bedrogi.
Which
on
that
there,
one's
too.
great, too. Yeah.
Do girls still make sounds when boys aren't around? I'm like a porcelain doll you threw on the ground. A misplaced embrace that never got found. I've had it this time, so I'll draw a line. You stay on your side and I'll stay on mine.
Boys still play fair, girls aren't aware. I'm like a little toy gun, lost interest in a replaced favorite that's now long forgotten. I've had it this time, so I'll draw the line. You stay on your side, and I'll stay on mine.
It's you stay on your side,
Uh-huh.
I'll stay on
Yep.
mine. It was like a duet that I wanted someone to sing on. She came over to sing on it, and she said, "Can I hear what else you've got for this album?"
Mm-hmm.
And I played her a bunch, and I played her this instrumental, and I said, "This one's called Bubblegum Blue Jeans, but I don't know where it's going. I just don't have any ideas for it." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Let's finish it right now."
That's
And
cool.
so in the moment, she wrote some lyrics, I wrote some lyrics. We
Okay.
both sang, and it was like, that song's done.
Nice.
So that song only made it on the album because while she was over to record a different one, it's like, here
So
you go,
cool.
I finished another song
Oh,
for you.
man, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. And then the song Telephone. I think Two Guns was the first full album I had heard by you, because that was one that was already released when I started listening to your music. You hadn't done anything with Dipso yet. I'd only heard those 2 songs that you gave me. And I think I'd heard The Dirt and maybe one other song on here. It wasn't Telephone for sure. It was The Dirt and something else. I don't remember. It might have been Lessons from a Dandelion. I don't remember which one it was, but so for whatever reason, I would listen to Two Guns, and I would just kind of, I don't know if I just like zoned out or whatever, but years later, as I was listening through it one day, like years later, we're talking this probably like, I mean, shoot, maybe like 5 years ago from now, I'm listening through it, and I hear this song Telephone, I go, whoa, like just a like this. I was like, this is a really cool song, and I was like, how have I never like really appreciated this song before? And it was almost like I had never heard it or something, but I was like, I know I've heard it because I've listened to this whole album. Yeah. So I mean, that's probably my second favorite song, next to the Missing Pretty Girl. Yeah. So
when I wrote that song, that was the first time. That and The Dirt, I both wrote around the same time. The first time that I wrote a song, and then when I tried to play it on guitar, I thought, I'm not a good enough guitarist to play this. And so I thought at that time period, my goal now is to become better at what I do, because the songs I'm writing are out, they're moving past what I'm capable of. So I had to learn how to play those riffs, because it's like I wrote it, I hear it in my head, but then when I try to play it, it's clunky, and like I can't get my fingers to go to the next chord fast enough. What am I doing wrong? And so those 2 songs were both ones that I was like, I don't know if I am good enough to play this. Okay. And which is funny, because I bet if I picked up a guitar now, they're probably so basic. And like anybody trying to learn would be like, what's the deal here? But for me, it was like, I was not used to playing that. I was in a 3-piece rock band. And my goal, or my job in that band, was to just play lead lines. And I wasn't playing full chords and stuff. I was playing melodies and arpeggios and stuff. So when I had to fill out the whole thing acoustically, it's like, I just realized I don't know how to do this. You know? I don't know what I'm doing with this. And especially if I'm going to play these in front of a crowd with only an acoustic guitar, I can no longer lie back and let the bass carry the song. I have to be I'm the only one making noise up here. So yeah, some of those songs help me step it up as a guitarist.
Yeah, really cool song. Slowly, Slowly.
From heaven spoke to me. It whispered slowly, slowly. I thought I'd heard the blowing trees, but once again it told me. A man in rags came up to me. He yelled out slowly, slowly, then turned around and walked away. I'd never felt so lonely.
That one is, there's that part where my mother used to hold me over and over. She'd say, son, live slowly, slowly. Yeah. Is that a real thing, or is that just kind of a lyric you wrote?
No, I think it was just an idea I had, or a thought that I had.
Is it kind of like don't live slowly because the world's going to pass you, like you're going to get old fast kind of thing? Like, what's the concept there?
Yeah, like don't speed ahead. Just kind of take your time, and it's okay to
enjoy the moment.
Yeah,
kind of
thing. And I like the concept of it, but that whole song, it's like in a cathedral underground.
There you go with underground again, kind of keeping with that concept. Yeah,
that's true. And yeah, I don't know what I was getting at. A lot of it is just, like I said, impressionistic, poetic. I had the idea for it, and Slowly Slowly was one that it was really long, and it had this very basic opening, but then it built, and then it just took off into this other thing, and I thought I should split this into 2 tracks. It's Slowly Slowly Part 1 and 2.
Yeah, which Part 2 is only instrumental, I think, right?
Yeah, and it's still the same song, but to me it was like, maybe there's people who don't want to listen to this whole thing. So
it's like, is this song over yet?
Weird.
Yeah, okay. And then lastly, the Into a Casket, Little Girl, which is like 2 songs kind of smashed together, it sounds like, anyway, because at the end, little girl, and you get all, that's kind of cool. I love that how it mixes. And
cross, but underneath I'm like a bullet past the point of no return. 'Cause if I change my mind, you're never gonna learn. A massive liner on an endless sea. Little girl, the casket's closing over. Little girl, the casket's closing over. Little girl, the casket's closing over. Little girl, the casket's closing over you.
There.
Yeah.
But again, Into a Casket. I mean, we're talking.
Yep.
This album seems to be about death.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
It was about burying our family, essentially.
Okay.
It's like the theme of that year was like, we sure have been to too many funerals in 1 year.
Yeah.
It felt. So a lot of that seeped into the music that way. I don't even remember what I was talking about in that song. I remember something about I met an angel in a helicopter blade, which I thought was such a cool lyric, and now it's like, what was I talking about?
Yeah.
But it made sense to me. And there's whale noises at the end of that song.
Yeah.
I was really into the idea of whales at that for a little bit there, and I read this news story about a whale in England that tried to swim up the Thames River, which, you know, whales typically stay in the ocean.
Yeah.
And he got trapped. Like, he's too big and got trapped. And I don't remember if he died. There was like a whole like project to try to free this whale before it died, and I don't remember if it did or not. But I remember reading about it and just thinking, like, that's so haunting, and like, just, I don't know why. To me, it was like almost like a horror movie.
Yeah.
And so I started incorporating a lot of whale themes into the music. I don't know what I was thinking.
I'll tell you, when we went into talking about this song, I would have never guessed in a million years we were going to go down that, talking about whales trapped in rivers. You know,
and again, like, I think it was just conceptually, like, the feeling that event gave me.
Yeah.
Made it into the songs, but not necessarily because the song was about a whale.
Yeah.
It was like a lot of things at that time were just very inspiring to me in an emotional way, and I tried to bring that emotion into a song that had nothing to do with that.
Gotcha.
So, but I think I did incorporate at one point in between the two, you know, it goes from Into a Casket, and there's some guitar feedback, and then you just hear whale noises.
Yeah.
And then I go into the last little part.
Comes in.
Which was Little Girl, the Casket's Closing Over You, was conceptually like the end of the relationship I just gotten out of, and also closing the door on a silent explosion.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just like I'm just kind of moving on from both of these things. Little Girl, the Casket's Closing Over You.
Okay. Very cool. So then Two Guns 2, Part 2, never... You have it. You just never released it.
Dale has it.
Okay. Is it all instrumental?
No.
Oh, it's actual songs.
Yeah, and some of them are like me talking, like they're spoken word tracks with like weird, like just me playing piano, like on cassette tape, and then destroying the tape and putting it in the computer, and then putting cello over it, and just trying to be as weird sounding as I could.
Yeah.
And then over the top, I'm just talking.
Right. Right.
I have no idea.
Okay.
It was a weird one.
All right, and then before we get to songs I'd like to sing in your open mouth, which is interesting where you put it, you're going to have to explain to me how that works, because I know you wrote a lot of that and just never did anything with it.
Yeah.
And that was before Dipso.
Yes.
But it came out after Dipso.
Right.
But we'll talk about it before. But before that, you gave me two other ones here that I've never heard of either. Essential Chris Lambert in 2008 and Evan Rude.
Evan Rude, yeah.
What is that? Is that another band, or is that like okay.
So the Essential Chris Lambert is a joke. That was Dale's birthday present that year.
Okay.
Was I took songs that, because, you know, I'd bring songs over to play them for my mom and Dale, and then I'd bring them back to my dad's house, and they never really got copies of that stuff. So when I was putting them together, I thought, Dale doesn't have a lot of these old songs that they reference. My mom and Dale would be like, remember that song you sang about this thing? But they didn't have a copy.
Right.
So for Dale's birthday, I made him like a joke greatest hits collection.
Okay.
It was based on the Essential Paul Simon, which he had on his
Yeah,
shelf.
yeah.
So I just took a picture of me like in the same position as him and stuff.
That's awesome.
And I gave him this. It's like the Essential Chris Lambert, and then you flip over, and it's like the very first songs I started writing. There's a song called I Met a Girl, and it was I met a girl and she's never had a boyfriend. She loves me most.
Yeah.
And it just repeated that. It was like a doo-wop kind of song, and
So it wasn't really your essential songs. It was more like these are songs.
it was like a retrospective. Like,
Okay.
let's just go through like maybe one song a year up to the point that I'm at now.
Yeah.
And then the last few songs were, I think, unreleased songs that it's like, Dale, nobody has these but you. Isn't that cool? And Dale's,
Yeah.
Dale's the only person in the world maybe with you being the exception, that like collects songs of mine that's like, they're like a completist that like I need to have everything that you've ever done.
It's not with me. It's not just you.
Yeah,
like it's like if I find any musical artist I
you're
like,
a completist, right?
I want everything. I don't care if it sucks. I don't care if they're embarrassed by it. Like I don't want anybody to hear this.
Right.
No, you don't understand. As fans of the music, I like to hear the progression. I like to hear, oh, this is what I wrote before this, because even if that song might suck in a sense, you can hear how it morphed into this great album or something, right? It's like, okay, whatever you were doing over here is kind of where you were figuring stuff out, and then you turned that into this.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome, and I'm also the kind of person who I like to go in order.
Yeah.
So, and then that's why, because of the progression. Like if let's say I hear a song on the radio that by a band I've never heard, and I'm like, oh, I love this. And then I got online, I found out, oh my gosh, they have 10 albums. They've been out since 1986 or something.
Right.
So I don't buy the one that song's on or like the newest one. I go back as far as I can, even if it's not the first release on a label. Like if I can somehow get a hold of a demo they had, that's where I want to start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I always thought it was cool in the 90s when you would dig up old splits that people used to do.
Yes.
It's like we put out a split 7-inch, and the only place you can get that song is a split 7-inch.
And that was a big deal back then.
You go buy them.
Yes.
I was into a lot of those. There was a 90s Midwest emo scene. There were bands called like Christie Front Drive was my favorite from that time.
I love Christie Front Drive.
Nobody knows them.
Yes.
They only put out 2 albums.
Yeah.
But then they had a couple songs that they only released on splits. So it's like, I got to go buy that split because that's the only place I can hear that song. And I love collecting rarities.
Yes.
So I know that for somebody like Dale, it's like he actually appreciates the stuff that I'm able to pull off the cutting room floor that nobody in the world cares about.
Yes.
And it's like, but you will. I know you will.
Right.
And also it helps fill in a gap from like, how did you go from this to this?
Yeah.
And then you hear a song and it's like, well, that makes a little more sense.
Absolutely.
And so, Dale likes to collect that stuff. So my birthday gift to him that year was, here you go. It's a greatest hits album. And it also has I Live My Life Like a Rap video, which was a song that me and my friend Trevor and our friend Michael wrote.
I've heard that one.
That we did a music video for, and it won Best Director and Audience Choice at the film festival in our senior year of high school.
Yeah.
But nobody has a recording of it.
Yeah.
So Dale is like one of the few people on earth that's like, you have the full like recorded version of that.
Funny, honey, don't ya? Could have told you that, but all your questions, well, the wrong impressions got an ugly face. What? I'm just messing.
Let's go to bed and dream about hugs, while the thugs stay awake and dream about drugs. All the money I make, all the ladies I date, all the players I hate, all the shots that I slate. I live my life like a rap video.
Interestingly enough, that song was on that first CD that I was given.
Okay.
It was on that.
Yeah.
I no longer have it.
What you were probably given was probably
there.
A copy of the Essential Chris Lambert, maybe.
Okay.
It was probably like the first iteration of like, let's just put together a compilation of going through a lot of different genres I did and stuff and put them all on one.
Because that rap song, it sounds like the Beastie Boys, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, and it's like this.
And I was the high pitched voice in the top, so it's like I was very proud of like my role in that, which is like. We had one friend that did kind of the Snoop Dogg, like kind of soft,
right.
And then our other friend did more like the blah blah blah, and then I'd come in with like the high pitched voice, and I thought that was pretty cool. And we wrote and recorded that in his bedroom, and then we just walked around Orchid filming music videos for him and put them together, and people loved it. Like people laughed so hard, because it's 3 white boys. And a lot of the lyrics, too, it's like, I'm abstinent. I don't do drugs. I'm not a thug. And it was, just...
So the whole thing was a joke in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole... they came up with it. It was like, what if we did a music video that was like, I live my life like a rap video, like I've got a girl under each arm and I'm walking around with bling and that sort of thing. And so I thought, I can do that. I can, I'll go home and write that right now. And I brought it back. And then they added parts, and then I brought in new parts,
awesome.
And that was a lot of fun. But Dale has one of the only copies of that in existence,
right?
And so that's it. It's not an album, but it is a collection of songs that don't exist anywhere else,
right?
Yeah,
which it would be like if you were signed and you were releasing these, that is something it would be. They'd be like, oh, let's put out some of this stuff that's there, but nobody's ever heard it.
Right.
This will be an album, because they're going to try to make money off of it. And what about am I even saying that right? Evinrude?
Evinrude, yeah.
Evinrude.
So Evinrude is the name of the dragonfly in the Rescuers, the Disney Rescuers.
Okay.
Movie. He's a little dragonfly that I think he's a boat motor, and Evinrude was a brand of boat motor from the 70s or something. Okay. So we spelled it wrong on purpose. I don't know why we flipped the letters, but maybe so we didn't get sued.
That's the British pronunciation.
Yeah, Evinrude. I think it's like German.
Yeah.
But so anyway, we formed this band at the end of 2007. So in the year of 2007, I had the My Soundproof Box album at the beginning, the Silent Explosion's second batch of songs, Connie Kills Sky, Secret Agent Polar Bears, Two Guns, and Evinrude were all within 2007. So Evinrude was a band that formed out of the two bands that played in the Motions Battle of the Bands was the Silent Explosion and Artifice. Okay. And after we both broke up, the guitarist from Artifice called me and or the drummer from Artifice said she wanted to start playing guitar and singing. Would I like to join as the other guitarist?
Interesting.
Like, yeah. And so then we found a drummer, we found a bassist, and we found a singer. And she went to the Musicians Institute in Los Angeles. Her parents let her drop a year of high school to just go learn drum. She's an incredible drummer. Her favorite band is No Doubt, and she's obsessed with ska rhythms, and she was so good. But she wanted to step out and try guitar. Well, it turns out she's better at guitar than we are, and it's we played guitar our whole lives. And so she started writing these songs that were more like, remember the band Paramore? Yeah. That was her favorite band. Okay. So we were starting to write more like whatever you call that genre of music, pop punk, emo, punk, mainstream stuff. And that was way more complex than a Silent Explosion or Artifice were. Yeah. And we played probably only 6 months together, but in that time we wrote a batch of 7 songs that we were pretty proud of, and we went into Certain Sparks music, which was a little hole-in-the-wall
So this is way before you worked there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We went there and recorded 2 songs that we put out as a single, like an A-B side single. And it's the only recordings we ever did. We recorded all of our songs acoustic just on a field recorder just to have them. Yeah. Which I'm grateful for now because it's they're lost to history. Right. But we ended up playing Whiskey A Go-Go. Oh, wow. And so we played a set at Whiskey A Go-Go. Dang! That was great.
Did you play with? Were you opening for somebody else? Or?
Yeah, but I don't remember who. Oh, man. And we had a blast. We rented a van and we loaded all our amps and stuff, and we drove down together in one van. Okay. And just had a blast and went to the diner next door, and it's we're living the high life.
Nice.
We're playing a set in Hollywood right now. Yeah. Even though, probably nobody came to see us. Right. We were just this is the greatest thing ever. Yeah. And then we played a friend's birthday party in Grover Beach, and I filmed the whole thing. That's on YouTube if you want to. Yeah. It's terrible quality, a recording, but there's footage of us playing together, and we played, I think 6 months maybe. Okay. And then we never officially broke up. Nobody ever scheduled the next band practice, so it's it just dissipated.
See, that's so weird to me.
Yeah. It used to, it used to be who's free on Wednesday, and it's I work Wednesday. It's well, we can do Thursday, and so it just eventually was we don't.
Life
really have
gets
time
in the
for
way.
this. Yeah.
And so were you guys a 3-piece then?
No, we were 5-piece.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was me, Rachel, Corey, Pete, and Aaron.
Okay. And Rachel was the singer guitar player?
Yeah. She ended up deciding not to sing. She sang like backup vocals.
Well, who sang lead then?
Corey. This guy, Corey Fig was his name.
Okay.
And then Aaron on bass, who actually played he filled in as our bassist for the last Silent Explosion show.
Wow.
Drummer named Pete.
Okay.
And then me on guitar and Rachel on guitar.
Nice.
Yeah. And so it was like
really cool.
I don't know what you would call it. It's like post-hardcore, pop punk emo sort of thing.
And you had recordings? You had
actual... so there's 2 songs we officially recorded in the studio.
Okay.
And I don't know if you have copies of those.
I don't have anything from that band.
Yeah. Okay, I'll get you those.
Yeah. I like this. We're going through them all, and every time there's something I don't have, you say, I'll get you those.
I won't remember those, so you got to make me a list of what I do.
I will send you a list, my friend. Okay, so then before we get to Dipso, there's a few other ones. Ding Dong and songs I'd like to sing. Oh, and Toonie Goldman.
Yeah.
Oh, and Calliope. We got a while till we get to Dipso.
Oh, man, okay.
But there's a bunch of stuff going on in there. So songs I like to sing into your open mouth is... There were some songs from that on that initial...
Okay.
I believe there was... I forgot which ones they were now, but I love this album. Like, there are songs on this album that are my all-time favorites of yours. Who Needs the World is a big one for me.
Oh, I wish I could trace all the lines of your hands. Try to tell you how I feel until your heart understands. Comes to knock on my door, I won't be home anymore. Who needs the world when I've got you? Who needs the world when you've got me too? We could drive to the beach, write our names in the sand. We could trip, fall together and pretend it was planned. And if the world comes looking for me, I'm not sure where I'm gonna be. Who needs the world when I've got you?
That's the one that's kind of like my, hey babe, this is the song I would write for you if I knew how to do this kind of thing, because I mean lyrics like we could go to the beach, write our names in the sand, we could trip, fall together and pretend it was planned. I love that. It's just it's such a cool song, and it's just like, and who needs the world, and I think when I was first hearing that, and just kind of some of the things that we were going through and stuff. And it was just like, who needs... I mean, we got me and you. That's all we need, right? We got our little family. We got stuff going on. Work sucks. We're not making any money. We're barely getting by, but who cares? Kind of a thing. It was just kind of a really cool song. Yeah. So I love that song. But I want to start with kind of like is there a concept here? Because you also have some weird songs on here lyrically. Yeah. Like, I mean, like these first 2, which I just think, if you're going to leave me when I stop kissing you, and then I'll just stay in your mouth until I die, or until we die. Yeah. Like what? I mean, and then the next one, I'm baby open wide. I'm better off inside. I mean, it sounds from first listen sexual in a sense, but I don't know if that's what you're going for, or if it's just about kissing, or like what. I mean, like, but then even the title of the album, songs I'd like to sing into your open mouth. Yeah. Like so. Fill in the blanks for me here. What's going on?
So, I put out 2 Guns in December of 2007. Okay. And immediately went on my first tour, which I had never left, the city.
Your tour was just in Santa Maria, you mean?
No. So we played a show in Santa Maria. I had friends that I met on the internet who were in a band called Nuisance. Okay. So they drove from Vegas.
Not Nuisance from the Bay Area.
No.
In the 90s.
No.
Okay.
Spelled N-E-W-S-E-N-S-E.
Okay. Totally different. Okay.
They were a band in Vegas, and when I was putting out albums, they were also kind of a silly pop punk, funny band, and so I would put songs on MySpace. They would like them. I'd like their songs, and me and the lead, the frontman Mark, would hang out or like in chat rooms, like AIM and stuff, and we just talk all the time. So it felt like we knew each other, but we'd never met. Okay. So they decided they were going to drive. They drove from Vegas. to play a set with a silent explosion in November of 2006. It was the day that Borat came out in theaters, and we all went to see it afterwards. And,
funny!
Died laughing. It's like the funniest theater experience we'd ever had. But so they drove all the way to Santa Maria just to play with our band, and I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
So when the following year, it was like, hey, you guys should come back, and I'll come back to Vegas with you. So we'll like play down the coast and then go out. And so we booked shows. We had one show in Santa Maria. I think it was at Moody Brews, which was like the place to play at that point.
Right.
We played the next night in Burbank.
Okay.
We played the next night in LA. And then we drove to Vegas, and then we played like 3 shows over 3 nights at different spots around Vegas.
But this is being billed as Chris Lambert. You just had a band that was playing with you.
Well, no, they played their own band's music.
Oh,
I
okay.
played my music.
You guys toured around together as a... Okay.
So depending, like when we played here, they opened, and then I played last.
Gotcha. Okay.
And when we went out there, I opened, and they played last. And, and sometimes we'd trade off, and it was Christmas time, so we did a few Christmas songs. I wrote an original Christmas song called This Christmas.
This Christmas the mistletoe is hung from every doorway. If you want it quick, closed lips, no tongue, then we'll do it your way. 'Cause this Christmas I do not want a tree. I don't need a pony, but if you are still in love with me, then pick up your phony for this Christmas. This Christmas. This Christmas. Just kill me.
Yeah.
That was just for this tour. It's
So
like,
Kill
I need
Me
a
or whatever.
Yeah. I need a Christmas song to tour with.
Very uplifting.
And they played, is it Happy Christmas, War is Over, if you want it?
John Lennon.
Yeah. And so we would close the set out by, I would get on stage with them, and we would all play, I'd play tambourine, and then we'd all chant the ending and stuff. And it was a fun little Christmas tour. I went to Vegas, had a blast in Vegas with them, and then kind of got stranded out there. I think I was supposed to take a train back, and I ended up having to take a Greyhound bus, which took 9 hours or something. Just a miserable trip back. And again, I had gone through this breakup in October of 2007, and I was still in the midst of like feeling that. And so when I was in Vegas, I came up with like, I need to start working on my next album, so I have something to do. And I wrote When I Stopped Kissing You in Vegas, which was going to be the opening track of the album. And
Right, so where was I when you were shaking it from side to side? 'Cause I didn't buy you those nighttime shoes so you could use them with another guy. I know you like to look a little lost, so you could fetch another guest to get your point across. Spin life in a barrel of lifetime juice till you can choose to make a better move. But if you're gonna leave me when I stop missing you, then I'll just stay in your mouth. I'll just stay in your mouth. If you're gonna leave me when I stop kissing you, then I'll just stay in your mouth. I'll just stay in your mouth. I'll just stay in your mouth till we die.
And I thought, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop rebelling against, Two Guns was supposed to be, I'm going to do what a silent explosion didn't do.
Okay.
So I'm going to just be acoustic. I'm not going to do rock songs. I'm not going to have drums and rhythms and stuff.
Yeah.
And with this album, I was like, you know what? Why not? Who cares? Like, I do what I want to do. So When I Stopped Kissing You, it's like, that's going to be like a dance song. It's like going to have drums to it.
Yeah.
Have this
it's got a
cool
good,
beat.
like,
Yeah.
like kind of like a,
And that was, I think, when my mom and Dale had gotten me an accordion.
Okay.
And so that was that little opening. Is the accordion I played on. I remember, so when I got back from Vegas, set up in the, at this point, my mom's garage became my recording studio. That was like where I would do everything.
Is this on the Miller House, or is this before that?
This is before that.
Okay.
We lived on Roble Street, just
right across the way there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we lived there from 2003 to 2009, almost 10.
Gotcha.
And so I recorded everything there. Mm-hmm. So I started recording that song, and I thought, the song is basically the same thing you were saying about Who Needs the World.
Yeah.
It's like the whole purpose of my life is just to love you. That's all I want to do is just, if you're going to leave me when I stop kissing you, then I'll just stay in your mouth till we die. Like, I'll just keep kissing you.
In other words, we'll keep kissing you forever. Yeah.
And at some point came up with, like, what if this album is called Songs I'd Like to Sing Into Your Open Mouth, and every song is something to do with mouths, whether it's kissing or talking, or everything has to do with
Strawberry
the mouth.
tongue.
So the following song is about... Baby Open Wide, I'm Better Off Inside was literally about like shrinking down and hiding in her mouth from the world. It's just like, let me go in there and just stay in there.
Now you have to admit, this is a weird thing to be writing songs.
But no different than like, sitting on a cornflake waiting for the van to come.
Yes.
It's like, that's where I was coming from. It's like, well, they're saying whatever they want. Like, it's weird, but that's, what am I supposed to be singing about? And I was burnt out on like just singing straight forward songs.
Right.
And so, a lot of that album was just about mouth stuff. Just what does that mean? So I started it in the very beginning of 2008, like January, and I worked on it through the spring, and then I got a job at Kinko's. It was my very first like full-time job that I was working, that I had to go to work every day.
Which you loved. You loved that place.
Yeah. And at the time, I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be cool, because right now I don't have any money. I'm just, I'm 19 and I'm living at home, and I've got a recording studio in the garage, but if I had money, I could do, I could buy a new whatever recording equipment or instrument. Yeah. And so I thought, I'll just get a job, and that way I can use the money to do that. Well, what I found out is the job took up all my time. And when I would come home, I was exhausted. I hated that job. Yeah. And so I completely lost interest in writing songs.
So now you have money to buy stuff that you need.
And no time.
But no time or energy to put into it.
Which is the conundrum that everybody... You got to decide what's... where you're going to place weight. And for me at that point, it was like, this job is going to help me step it up with my songwriting. And it turned out it sucked everything out instead. Yeah. So by the end of that year, I was like, I don't think I'm even going to finish this album. I just set it aside. Yeah. And, again, MySpace was the outlet then. So when I would finish a song for it, it'd go right up on MySpace.
You just release it like as a single.
Yeah, and it's just, it's there for anybody to listen to that wants it. With the album artwork and everything, it's like they know it's coming from an album. Right. Not that anybody cared or was keeping track, but and I was playing a lot of shows then. So that's probably the period where my mom's asking, who my son is? Because every weekend I was playing a set somewhere. Sure. And for a while, it was the thing to do on a Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And that's where Allie met me. It's like Chris Lambert is always playing an acoustic show somewhere. Okay. You can always find a Chris Lambert show, and he's easy to talk to, and he's she reached out and was like, "Hey, can my band open for you?" Yeah, of course. Okay. I would love to do that. So that's when we started getting to know each other.
Which is the Circus.
Yeah, My Name is Circus was her band.
Which I keep pushing her. I want to hear some of that. She says she has some,
but she won't show it to me. Yeah, we've got a CD somewhere.
She said she knows, but she's like, I don't know if I want you to hear it. I was like, no, you don't understand. I love hearing this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And they were playing, they do Bob Dylan covers and stuff. Yeah, and her friend Cole that sang was very spastic, and he would just get really energetic. His face would be red, and he'd be strumming the guitar, and she'd just be standing there with. Sometimes she played tambourine, sometimes she played guitar too, but she'd just sing harmonies with it. Right. And so it was fun because, like a Silent Explosion, they had a lot of friends that liked them and wanted to come see them play. So when we play a show, all of their friends would come to see me play because I'm playing with them. So that was the time when we started to get to know each other. It was 2008. And so
you were just friends in the beginning, right?
Yeah, for a long time.
Because you had another girlfriend, right?
I had, I had gone through that breakup in October. I started dating a new girl in, I think it was May of 2008. And we dated for a year and a half or so.
Well, because I feel like when I went, I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, and we're definitely going to stay here. But just to skip ahead real quick, when I went to the show for the Dipso release party and at the Lions in Orchid, I feel like you had a girlfriend there with you.
Probably.
Because that was the first time I ever officially met you.
Yeah, I think she ran the merch table for that show.
Yeah. So when I went up and talked to you, you were both sitting there at the table, and then that was the first time I ever met you. Okay. In person.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't have any memory of
that. Yeah.
So yeah, Allie and I got to know each other through setting up shows together, and then very quickly, because she was asking, older guys, like, can we please play a set at this bar? Can we please play a set at this bar? Right. And at some point, she figured out, I can just call the bar and set up my own show. I don't have to go through these people.
Eliminate the middleman.
So then, and I was always kind of shy, and I'd rather not deal with like having to talk to people in person. Mm-hmm. So she would reach out and be like, do you want to play a set at this show? Yes, I do. So pretty soon, Allie is the go-to booker for all of these local places. It's like, Allie, can you set up a show here? Can you set up a show here? Right. I need a show for like the middle of January. Can you set something? She'd set it up at Pioneer Park or something, and we get a bunch of people to come watch us play there. So it was like, Allie's like I'd much rather work with Allie than work with these guys who had an ego. Yeah. They were kind of gatekeepers too, and they'd be like, I don't know if I want you to play at my venue. Right. It's like, it's not your venue. You're just the guy who books here. Right. So yeah, that's how Allie and I got to know each other. Was pretty soon she was booking all my shows, and then she would ask for my help to like, can you help me like make a flyer or like help me book a show at this place? And then we would go places together, and it's like, she's cool. Like she's a lot of fun. Yeah. So anyway, Open Mouth got shelved. Essentially.
Now, was that hard for you?
No, because I had no interest in... For one, when I am not really excited about a project, I don't care about it at all. I just like dump it.
But you didn't think to yourself, man, those are some great songs?
No. But what happened was... so I'm working at Kinko's full time. And for Trevor's birthday in September of 2008, I decided I'm going to make him... his own original EP. It's just all brand new songs that I'm going to write just for him, and silly songs, and it's going to be just kind of like sing-along songs, like a kid's album kind of. And so I wrote Ding Dong Sing-Alongs and recorded it in my garage, and then packaged it at Kinko's. I wasn't supposed to be, but like when there was downtime, I'd like laminate these pieces of cardboard we had left over, and then staple them together, and then slide a CD inside with a little sheet of lyrics. And so I thought, I'm just going to make this for Trevor's birthday. But then when I gave it to him, he liked it and said, you should just make a lot of these and sell them at your shows.
Well, the songs in there are hilarious.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's the whole album is funny. I don't think there's anything serious.
What's on? Do you have?
I can tell you, it's right here. You got Da Da. Why I Still Don't Have My License, which is hilarious. Satan Has a Sister at the Lompoc DMV. Like it's well, let's go to the EP real quick, then we'll come back to songs because it seems to fall right in the middle. Yeah, so let's do that. So I'm going to tell you, I'll just read them to you real quick and tell you. So you got Why I Still Don't Have My License, which is hilarious. I'm Short.
Everything about me is small. Everything about me is really teeny tiny. I said everything about me is short. Everything about me is really teeny tiny. I said everything about me is small. I told my dad and he laughed at me. He said ha 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 ha. He laughed at me. He laughed at me. He said ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. He laughed at me, he laughed at me. He said, I used to be a lot like you, till my legs sprouted up and my hair strands grew. He said, I used to be a lot like you, till my legs sprouted up and my hair strands grew. He said, I used to be a lot like you.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, just about being short, which I'm not.
But then you say everything about me is small. Everything about me is really teeny tiny. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, there's a little double meaning there, and it's like, okay, this guy's writing a song about the smallness of his penis. Okay, that's
and then a girl says ha 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 ha.
Yeah,
ha, ha, and the chorus is, and she said ha.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I thought was funny.
It's hilarious. And then Your New Boyfriend, which is like I think the funniest song you've ever written.
I saw your new boyfriend, he was punching a baby and it wasn't very nice. You should probably dump him and go back out with me. I saw your new boyfriend, he was drowning a puppy and it wasn't very nice. You should probably dump him and go back out with me.
saw your new boyfriend. He was making fun of a retarded kid, and it wasn't very nice. You should probably dump him and go back out with me.
Here, let me tell you this story. I listened to that probably maybe a week or maybe even days before Thanksgiving one year. The first time I had ever heard it. And I had just listened, and I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. So then we had hosted Thanksgiving that year. So my whole family's here. So I had told my cousins, because like my cousin Diana and my cousin April and Adam and like some of my cousins that were here, I was like, and I think that's when I had found out that April knows you, because you guys had gone to school together. April Hampton, right? Yeah. Now Compton. But yeah, and I said, oh my gosh, I said, you guys have to hear this song. So we all went out into my car, because I popped it in, because I think it was before they even had a Bluetooth connection. I think I just put in the CD or whatever I had it on, and I showed him that song. I think I showed him a few. I showed him Why I Still Don't Have My License. But that Your New Boyfriend was, and we were just dying, you know. I mean, it's like a minute long,
yeah.
But it's like your new boyfriend. I saw your new boyfriend. He was punching a baby, and it wasn't really very nice. And then I think you should dump him and go back out with me. Yeah. It's just like so funny, because it's like this morbid thing. And I think the other one was he was drowning a puppy,
yeah,
and then making fun of a retarded kid, I think was the last one, which of course is not PC anymore. You'd probably get canceled for that one.
And I was trying to be shocking with each new
line.
It's like, oh my, you can't say that. And that was written right after that breakup I went through, and I thought, this is a funny way to deal with this, which is just saying out loud, hey, your new boyfriend sucks.
Yeah.
You should probably just go back out with me. But just escalating and like, your boyfriend is the worst person in the world.
Yeah.
I guess you should probably dump him and go back out with me. You don't really have a choice.
So funny.
And yeah, it was definitely just a song meant to play live.
Right.
That people kept asking me, please record that. I remember my friends, the Chris Special, who they're from the desert area.
Yeah.
They drove all the way up here just to play a show with me. And when I played that, they were like, that's the funniest song I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Do you have a recording of it? I'm like, no, I have to go home and record this. So that's part of why I set that on that EP.
When you would play that live, did you just were people just laughing hysterically?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like shocked looks on their faces.
Because again, like the other one we were talking about, I forgot which one now, but where it sounded so serious, but Zac Efron. This is the same kind of thing. It sounds like you're gonna sing a love song. Yeah. I saw your new boyfriend. Like it's all like, you know, and then you start saying these things. You're like, wait, what? Like, and then after you're over the shock, you just start laughing because you realize this is a joke, right? Yeah. This is funny, you know.
And so when we toured in 2007, and again, that Christmas song I wrote was very like silly,
right?
Right. What was it?
This Christmas.
Yeah, talking about like this Christmas, just kill me.
Right.
And
right.
And I played that. I played Your New Boyfriend. I probably played a couple other jokey songs. Mm-hmm. And people on that Vegas tour would come up to me and they're like, you're like a stand-up comedian with an acoustic guitar. You should just like... And then I think I started getting self-conscious about it, because I thought, oh no, I want people to take me seriously.
Yeah.
Like I want them to like my serious songs.
Mm-hmm.
And is this just a gimmick? Am I just like now falling back on this because it's like, it will always get a laugh?
Right.
I remember like introducing too, because I was touring right after I found out that my girlfriend had cheated on me and like left me to be with this other guy. And so I was heartbroken for a little while, but then I started to kind of see the funny side of it and joking about it with songs like that. And so before I would play that song, I'd sit on a stool and I'm in a dark bar and everybody's wondering what I'm going to do. And I'd be like, this next song is about my ex-girlfriend who is a big whore. And everybody would laugh. And instantly they're just like on my side, like, yes, like this guy's going through it, but he's decided to make light of it. And it really did well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would right now, you know, like it's a different era.
Right.
But in 2007, it was the peak of like, Stephen Lynch. Remember Stephen Lynch with the acoustic guitar that would just play funny songs? And
but you just reminded me of Larry the Cable Guy, because he has those parts of his show every time where he comes out with the acoustic guitar, and the whole, I don't know if you've ever heard these, but the whole joke is, I'm going to play some songs for you, he always says.
Yeah.
And he'll play like, and do you guys remember a time when, and he'll keep talking about it, so he never actually gets to the song, but there's one where he's like, I wrote this song about my girlfriend, she cheated on me, or whatever thing, and he's like, and he finally gets down to singing, he's like, my girlfriend's a whore. That's all I got so far, but what do you guys think? Kind of things. It's like, it's funny.
So that was the
Steven
era of,
whatever.
like,
I've never heard the Steven guy.
The
whoever
Comedy
you mentioned.
Central was big right then, and like Mike Birbiglia, Stephen Lynch were like Dimitri Martin. Remember him?
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, they would just get up on stage with an acoustic guitar and like close their stand-up set with it.
Right.
And it was like people were really into it at that time. It's kind of outdated now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was still a surprise when somebody in a bar with an acoustic guitar would do something unexpected.
Yeah.
So that's when I started playing like "Hot in Here" by Nelly.
Which I've heard you do, but I've never heard you do it.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think that's the one your mom used to tell me was a big hit at your live shows, but all the times I've seen you live, you never did that one.
I played Soulja Boy. What was that? Crank Dat was a big hit.
Never heard that one.
You remember that song?
No.
It was a big club thing. No. And then Umbrella by Rihanna, which was like a big hit that summer, and it's like, under my umbrella, Ella.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd go up there and start playing chords, and they're just listening to see what it's going to be. And when they recognize it, they start laughing at just the absurdity. It's like, is this guy actually going to play this? Now, like I said, that's so kind of passé, and like everybody expects it now, so it's no longer fun.
Yeah.
You know, it stopped being fun after a certain period of time. But anyway, Ding Dong Sing-Alongs was just supposed to be like, my concept for it was these are lighthearted, like kind of silly songs that like would be on a kid's. Remember Rafi?
Oh yeah,
like Banana Phone.
Or super silly songs for the very young or whatever. That's the one Bethany grew up with.
Like a kids album.
Yeah,
and so that was like Ding Dong Sing-Alongs is just like it's a kids album.
Yeah,
but
hilarious.
So I put
a kids album, but not a kids album because like you play a song like Your New Boyfriend or I'm Short or
but it sounds like that.
It does. It's the style, but
music.
then the lyrics are like. So talk about why I still don't have my license, because this is a true story from what I understand, right?
Satan has a sister at the Lompoc DMV. She doesn't have a boyfriend, so she terrorizes me. Well, I was just 5 minutes late, is that a crime, for heaven's sake? So her manager made her take me out on her hour-long lunch break. So she said, you were speeding, but I wasn't speeding. She said I should be eating, but she wasn't eating. She was failing me. I hope she could sleep at night, I hope that she's happy. I have to take the bus around and my friends make fun of me. Now I'll never be a driver, and that's how this story ends. They always ask, why don't I just go back and take the test again? And I tell them, busy sleeping, 'cause I like sleeping. Well, I say I'm sleeping, but the real reason's I'm just too lazy.
I took my driver's license test on the day my permit was expiring.
Okay.
So it was the final day, because if your permit expired, you had to start the process all over again.
Right.
So we drove to the Lompoc DMV because everybody was telling us, oh, don't wait in line at the Santa Maria one. Lompoc never has a line.
Right.
So we drove to it, and when we got there, we realized the MapQuest directions or whatever, this is 2005. We printed out MapQuest directions, and it was to the old DMV building, what wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So we had to drive around looking for the new DMV. Well, we got there 5 minutes after my scheduled appointment.
Right.
So we got in, and the lady's like, yeah, you missed it. We can't. And my dad's like, no, you don't get it. His permit expires today. We have to take it.
Right.
And so the lady was sitting there on her lunch break, and they literally made her stop her lunch break to take me, and she put on sunglasses, grabbed a clipboard and said, let's go. And as soon as we sat down in the car, she's mad at me. And she's like, wear your windshield wipers, and you have to do all the things. And I was already nervous about driving, but driving with a mad lady, it was just like the worst. So we drove around, and she was dinging me on things that I was not doing. She said I was speeding. She said I was speeding, and I was a paranoid driver, so I was always a little under the speed limit. And so, like, in a residential, I was doing, like, 23, and she's like, slow down. You're speeding. And she's like, I'm marking you off for speeding. And it's like, I didn't say it, but it's like, I knew I wasn't speeding. Yeah. But what she failed me for was I was turning into a 2-lane thoroughfare, like main road, and I was turning into the right lane, which I'm in the right lane to turn. Yeah. Turning into the right lane, all I have to do is yield and make sure nobody's in my lane. And as I turned, somebody was in the left lane, and she said, you can't do that. And I said, but my lane was open. And she's like, but it's unsafe, which it turns out is not a law. And so she failed me for that and speeding.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, and so I went home, and like I was so depressed because it's like, now I have to take the written test, which I already passed. I have to take that over again. I have to apply for it all over. And my friend and I had tickets to see Tom Petty at the fair that night. Yeah. And when I got to his house, his whole family was like, congratulations! And I was like, I failed. Yeah. And then we drove to the fair and saw Tom Petty. Yeah. Came home the next day, and my girlfriend my girlfriend at the time popped up on AIM, and she's like, how'd your test go? I failed it. What happened? And I told her, and she's like, she was taking her test in like a week, and so she's like, well, what questions did they ask? And she was very in depth, like, did they make you back up along a curb? Did they make you like look in your? And she asked all these, and at the end she's like, oh, by the way, I think we should see other people. Oh no! Broke up with me the day after I failed my license test. Oh my gosh! So she's asking all these questions about the test. Yeah, she made sure to milk all the info out of me, and then now I think we should have a serious talk. So that was a horrible time. And then what I did was, because I was so kind of traumatized by that event, I just never went back and took it again. Yeah. So people would, I'd get rides from people, and they're like, why don't you have a license? Yeah. Well, I just don't feel lazy. Like it. Yeah, I'm too lazy. Like, well, and I laugh every time I hear it, just because of the way you say it. When you say, she said I was speeding, but I wasn't speeding. I should be eating, but she wasn't eating. She was failing me. The way you say, she was failing me. And that was it's a serious song. That was another one where I had the bells on the floor, but I also had a car horn. So I would step on the car horn. It's like do 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 do, and people would laugh just at the absurdity of that happening. That was another one that was like, that's a great live song that people love hearing. Yeah. And there's a YouTube video, I think, of me playing it the last time ever. And after I finished playing it and everybody's clapping, I said, that's the last time I will ever play that song, because I'm taking my license test this week. Oh, nice. And everybody claps, and I passed that time. Oh, so nice. I got my license at 22, I think. Oh, dang. Yeah. And did you ever play it again after that? Nope. No, that was it. Yeah. Okay. All right. And I had already burnt out on playing it by that time, because it was a gimmick and it was a joke, but it always got a response. Yeah. So I liked playing it there. And then lastly, let's talk about Captain Tug-a-Lug. That's another good one. I have heard you play that one live. Yep. That's a funny song about your pet fish. Yeah. Who was a blowfish? Yep. Okay. Pufferfish. Yeah. Pufferfish. Yeah. Yes. 2008, right around the time I was making this EP, went to some aquarium and bought a pufferfish for like $5 or something.
Here in town, it was like Fins and Critters, maybe.
Yeah,
or?
it might have even been Walmart when Walmart had an aquarium in there. And
so it was like a saltwater fish, because those are like, you're talking about the ones that actually puff up when they're.
Yeah, but it was a baby. It was like just like like the size of your thumb.
Yeah,
and it was green, and he never puffed because he's just a baby, and they only do that as a reaction.
Did you have to feed him like live fish?
No, it was just flakes.
Just flakes. Okay,
and. I don't know how long he lived for, 6 months or something, but I got him and I put him in a little bowl in our kitchen, and he just stayed there, and I fed him every day and stuff, and he just always looked happy and like he was smiling, and so I just thought it would be funny to like write a song. For one, I thought it would be really funny to name him something over the top, silly, and so I named him Captain Tug-a-Lug, which I already thought was funny. It's like, I just bought a fish. His name's Captain Tug-a-Lug. And so I went out the same day and wrote and recorded the song. Was done with it, put it on MySpace, and instantly people were like, "That's one of my favorite songs you've ever done," and which I kind of resented because I worked so hard on other songs, and that one was just silly. And I added all kinds of like you can hear like a boat rocking and like water bubbling, and it was just a song about how much I loved my good friend Captain Tug-a-Lug, and then he died like a few months later. But that became like a request. Like people would ask me to play that. Live. It was like one of the only songs people wanted to hear me play. And then a few times I played it, everybody was singing the words. And I thought, oh man, did this accidentally become like my hit? Like, this is the song people want to hear from me. Which is fine because it's silly. So even recently, I mean, the last few times I played, sometimes I'll pull that song out still.
Really?
It still works. You introduce it up front. It's like, this is a song about my baby puffer fish.
Right.
And then you play it, and it's like, it's so silly.
That's so funny, man.
Okay, so coming out of Ding Dong Sing-Alongs,
Yeah.
like I said, I made a copy for Trevor's birthday. I gave it to him. He played it for him. He loved it. But at the end, he said, you know what I'm really bummed about is that you shelved that Open Mouth album. And he said, those were some of my favorite songs you've ever written. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, it's depressing to think that they'll never see the light of day.
Right.
And I thought, man, I had no idea anybody felt that way.
Oh, man.
And I went home and talked to my mom and Dale about it, and they were like, oh, yeah. We were like, because Songs I'd Like to Sing Into Your Open Mouth was twice as long as what I put out. It was, again, a double album.
Yeah.
There were probably 30 to 40 songs I wrote for it. There were 2 different songs I tried to write about the people who... we'd watched a documentary about people who jump off the Golden Gate Bridge called The Bridge. Yeah. And it's a very dark movie, but I remember being really inspired by it. So I tried to write 2 different songs about the Golden Gate Bridge.
I have one called Golden Gate that's instrumental.
Yeah. Never finished the idea for it. Just I started writing songs about it. There was a song called Lovers and Cadets. I don't know if you have that one.
I don't.
Gosh, there were a bunch that they had on a CD. There was one called Thanking Heaven.
I have that one.
Yeah, that was a demo that never got finished that was supposed to be on the album, that they were like, what happened to that song? And I'm like, it's just not done. It's not a good song.
Yeah.
But so that song had a lot of stuff set aside for it, and a year or so later, I ended up taking all those songs, finishing lyrics for the ones that weren't done, and putting it out as a CD. Mm-hmm. But it was all written and recorded in 2008. So it's a 2008 album to me, even though it didn't see the light of day till 2010.
Right.
And then even then, I think I only pressed 100 CDs, and I probably still have 50 of them. So there's not that many of them out there. It's not an album that I remember people talking about or asking me about. I think it's on my Bandcamp now to stream. Yeah. So it's out there, but it's not one I
But you get a lot of, I'm sure you get probably a lot of compliments on the songs on there. Well, because I mean, this is
not anymore.
But I mean, like The Circle and the Saints, right? That's a big song, right? Like.
Perfume of peppermint and wine. The tongue between your teeth was mine. Your hair was all wrapped up and tied at the top of your
So have a ball with your excuse for a man, and I'll see you when we both get old.
Like, I know you've played it live just about every time I've seen you play live. You usually play that one.
Yeah, I don't think I've played it for 10 years, so you haven't seen me live in a long time.
I haven't seen you live in a long
that's
time.
True.
But I mean, so tell the story of that, because you've told me the story of that song before.
Did I?
Well, because and you talked about it live a little bit, because you opened the beginning of it. You put a little intro on it, which was the Ticky Tack song from Weeds.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, one of the times I saw you live over at Blue Sky.
Little Boxes.
Yeah, so you told the story of how something about you were asked for that song for that show or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So what happened was I got an email from somebody who was looking. They wanted to use that song. I put it on MySpace, and somebody wanted to use that song for placement in a TV show. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what does that entail and all this stuff? And they were sending me back, they sent me back a contract to sign and stuff. And I talked to Dale about it, and it was like, I don't know. I don't really want to follow through with this.
Yeah.
It's like, what show is it? What's the show called? And they said it was called Weeds.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've never heard of it. Mm-hmm. And is it about weed? Is it about... And when I read about it, it's like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like the kind of show I would watch.
Right.
And so I was like, nah. So I passed on it. And like maybe a year later, I told that story to Allie, and she was like, "What? Weeds is one of my favorite shows." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And
so
she's
funny.
like, "In fact, I think I know exactly what episode that was supposed to be used in, because the song they did use sounds a lot like that song. It was the same vibe as that song."
Yeah.
So I thought, "Wow, that's really interesting." And I never really looked into it again. I don't know what they were going to do with it. I don't know who reached out to me. But this was back when, the internet, like, they would do these A&R searches where it's like, we're just looking for cheap songs that don't belong to big name artists that still kind of pull off the vibe we're looking for. And I found out later that the theme song of that show, which I watched later on, every episode they have a different major artist do it. And so some of my favorite bands played the theme song, and I was like, no. I should not have passed on
that. Could have been your big break, man.
But honestly, I forget that story until someone else tells me, and I'm like, that's right.
And then I make you relive all your agony. Yeah. I'm sorry to do that to you.
That's okay. But yeah, that was I thought you meant what it was about. I thought you meant I told the story of what it was about.
Oh, no.
Gosh, I don't even remember.
I don't even know what it's about. I love the song, but I have it's again one of your songs where the lyrics are kind of cryptic. I really don't.
That was post breakup, just basically like a see you around kind of song. Like remember when we used to be like together? Yeah. And now I probably won't see you till we're old. Yeah. And like just and
have a ball with your excuse for a man. Yeah. And I'll see you when we both get old.
Yeah. It was a bitter song that I had fun writing.
Yeah. My favorite part is the end where the song changes, and I remember when things were different.
Yeah, and it kind of loops through and does different. Yeah, builds
that's my favorite part. But
and then it ends with that "Why Oh Why Can't I," which was like the top of my vocal range.
Yes.
I remember when things were different, though it all started out the same way. Last November when the world didn't end, but it started to break and burn away. I remember when things were different, though it all started out the same way. Last November when autumn didn't end, it's so easy for you to turn away. I remember when things were different, though it all started out the same way. Last November when the world didn't end, but it started to break and burn away. I remember when things were different, though it all started out the same way. Last November when autumn didn't end, it's so easy for you to turn away. I remember when things were different, though it all started out the same way. Last November when the world didn't end, but it started to break and burn away. I remember
sometimes I would not hit that when I was playing it live. It's like, ooh, I just missed that note. So it was a tough one to play live.
Yeah. So that one, Insane, one of my all-time favorites.
Really?
I wrote some prose about today inside a soggy notebook. These letters leaked from page to page. I spied an empty cookbook. From across the room, I saw the groom of Adeline. His pupils looked so far away. He spoke and said, "You're insane to be with me. You're insane to be with me. You're insane, but it's all okay when you're insane. That's as far as an uh-oh goes."
Love that song.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Now, this is what I want to ask you. Like, are you writing stuff that just doesn't make sense because it's supposed to sound like insanity, or do the words actually mean something?
They probably meant something at the time.
Back then, because they're very strange lyrics.
Yeah, I wrote some words about today inside a soggy notebook.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, I think it was just like stream of consciousness. Like as it came to my head, I wrote it down, and also trying to play with like inner rhyme schemes where like maybe the third word rhymes with the third word of the next sentence, but you didn't, so they just kind of bounce around each other, and it's not necessarily about anything in particular that I remember. Yeah. But I remember recording it in the garage, and I remember like getting that opening sound, that really like kind of thing, and dark kind of.
Well, because it's probably the most upbeat song on that album. I think the rest of them are kind of acoustic, mellow kind of songs. Yeah, that one's kind of. Well, I mean, I guess maybe like the beginning too, or kind of When I Stopped Kissing You is also kind of upbeat. But what was I going to say about that one? There was a part. Oh no, I was going to say that you were talking about the way the lyrics go into the other, like rhyming the thing. It reminds me. It does. The lyrics of that one remind me of, even though it's probably not related, song. And I can't remember if it was on Weatherman or not, but it's the one where the end of the line goes into the next line, but it's using a homonym or a homophone or whatever. Like to where it'll say like Amber waves her right.
Oh yeah.
And cool, left my constant cool but never dry. That's on Weatherman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we'll get to that eventually, but it just kind of reminds me of the way the lyrics are kind of. But see, that one makes sense to me more than like I listen to the lyrics of Insane. I'm like, what is even going on here? But I love the sound of it. I love When You're Insane. It's as far as an uh-oh goes.
Yeah.
That's
I like that one.
That's a cool lyric. Yeah. So and then Fell in Love. I'm talking a lot about the songs there because, like I told you, a lot of my favorite songs for you was on this album. I Fell in Love in a Coffee Shop is another good one. That one you made a video for, correct?
I didn't make it. Somebody
Okay.
asked if they could make a video about it, and I said
Okay.
sure. So they filmed. I was in.
You were in the
part of
video.
it,
Okay.
But it was a short film where like they had action and stuff, and it kept cutting back to me playing the song, and it was very strange and very
Okay.
kind of disjointed. I don't even know where that ended up. It's not
Yeah.
on YouTube or anything. I don't
Yeah.
have a copy.
Yeah.
But that was one that I wrote and instantly just put into the live set. It was like I wrote it in the garage
Yeah.
and like the next day played it at a show.
Oh, it's
and
perfect.
it went over really well live.
Yeah.
And it was like for a while I used
Yeah.
to play that at every show. 'Cause
Well,
it was-
especially when you're playing coffee shops.
yeah,
You
right,
know?
right.
It's kind of a
And
perfect
I fell in love
song.
in a coffee shop like this one,
Right.
And I'd be in a coffee shop
Yeah.
singing it, yeah,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that was another. I mean, all of these songs were just post breakup, so it was like every song was about like I went to a coffee shop to try to move on, and then you walk in with this new guy. It's like
Right,
great, I gotta
right.
get a new
Yeah.
place to hang out now, which
Yeah.
was actually I was talking about the Hancock. I don't know if you know the coffee shop inside of the Hancock Student Center.
Yeah.
That used to be where I hung out every day, and then pretty soon after
Okay.
we broke up, it's like I can't come here anymore because this is where she comes. And
yeah.
I was like, got to find a new place to hang out. But I thought
Yeah.
it made a fun song.
Yeah. And then on those lines, then you have a song like "Wait in Line," which is like your ex-girlfriend is now a prostitute,
Yeah,
right? Is that the concept there? And you're like, well, now I have to wait in line to see
Right.
my girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is another favorite of mine, even though the lyrics are like,
yeah.
I stood against the wall that faces Charlie Chaplin Street, resurrecting thoughts I thought were dead. I had a $20 bill unfolded in my hand. I listened to my heart and not my head. I never felt so low. She said, baby, don't you know you'll have to wait in line. You'll have to wait in line. I hid my face from all the drivers passing on the right, concentrating on my palms instead. She looked so quaint with all her bills all folded in her hands. I listened to my heart and not my head.
And
Crazy.
that was when I came up with. I was just walking home. That
Yeah.
walk I was telling you about. I was walking home thinking, what would be really interesting is to open a song with, "I stood against the wall that faces
Charlie Chaplin
Chaplin
Street."
Street."
Yeah.
And I thought that's interesting, and I just pictured a scenario like this.
Okay.
So it was like of course the whole song's fictional, but the idea of like, what if this guy's on a street corner waiting to talk to his ex-girlfriend, but it turns out he has to wait in line because she's literally like,
she's sleeping with the rest of the town first. Yeah.
Right. And so
Oh,
that wasn't
man.
like directed at my ex or anything. That
Right,
wasn't about
right,
that
yeah.
situation, but it was just a cool. I was trying to get I was trying to paint pictures lyrically a lot on that album. Like
Yeah.
maybe just like the Better Off Inside. What if I shrink down and climb inside your mouth and I'm looking out past your teeth and and just hiding from the world? And it's like, yeah, these are just sort of
Like visuals.
impressionistic, like trying
Okay.
to paint a picture. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there isn't really a Charlie Chaplin Street. You just
No, I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay. I mean, I'm sure there
I
is
just thought
somewhere.
it was a neat sounding
wasn't
line.
one for you,
Also,
so.
around that time, and you'll hear it in the intro of that song, I remember walking to the USA gas station on Stoll. It was
Yeah,
right around the
by
corner from
Hancock.
Hancock.
Yeah.
I walked there during one of my breaks in between classes and bought a white Bic lighter. Because I had read on the internet that you could use a lighter as like a slide on your guitar, like the guys in
like the
bars
metal
would, like,
part.
pull out. No, the plastic.
Oh,
part,
really?
like the side,
Okay.
yeah. And you could just slide it up the strings. And so I brought it home, and the same day I brought it home, I recorded "Wait in Line," and then I recorded "Structured," which has that wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all
yeah.
just a white lighter.
Well, behind your teeth there's a structured line. Take a path to the other side. All alone in a place of names, but you displace another
And then I remember reading later on that there was a, like the 27 Club, all those people that died when they were 27.
Yep.
There's a thing called the white lighter theory or something, that a bunch of famous rock stars have died with a white Bic lighter in their pocket. So they thought they were like a bad luck or something. And I thought like, I shouldn't have gotten a white lighter.
But you weren't 27 at the time.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were okay.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about it.
Right.
If you were 27 with a white lighter in your pocket,
it's like,
you're
bad
doomed.
news.
Yeah, you're done for. All right, and then lastly, I like to talk. I mean, just for the song title alone, you got these two that are like a paragraph long. You got the scene in which Daniel talks to God and begs him for a girlfriend who isn't out of her mind. And then the other one is the 4 horsemen came down in a flash of white light, but immediately turned back after seeing all of the traffic and billboards. Mm-hmm. That's some long titles there, man.
Yeah. I always thought long titles were funny. And like trying to make the title itself be a funny commentary of some kind.
Right, which it is funny.
He took his hand and he placed it on his heart as he said, "We're through." She said, "That's fine because I never really wanted to be with you." He took the trumpet of God and he brought it to his lips and blew. He looked the devil in the eyes and he said, "I always knew it was you. You're overdue."
So I mean, the 4 horsemen song, obviously that's a biblical reference,
Right. Yeah.
but I don't really know what the song. I mean, it's the song. The lyrics seem kind of religious too, because like the part of the devil comes down and says, "I didn't come here to fight, but to tell you you're all devils too."
Yeah.
Which is eerily true and like just like it kind of hits,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I just thought that was a fun concept for a song. It's like, what if the world was ending, but it turns out that like we're the problem, and
right,
and facing off with the devil, and it's a really like.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to it in a long time, but it's a very like slow song and like kind of soft finger picking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a lot of layered loop stuff over the top of it. And I just remember thinking, this is a really pretty sounding song.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Max Triplett drummed on this album. So a lot of Max Triplett?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I haven't talked to him in years, but yeah.
He was the drummer for a group called 3s and 9s when I was in high school.
I met him at Saban's Bible study at his tattoo shop.
Really?
That's where I first met Max, and then we started talking outside of there because he had a lot of biblical questions and stuff, and we would start talking about stuff like that. But I haven't talked to him.
His
in
mom
years.
lives directly behind my mom.
Okay.
So sometimes I see him there, but he just got his own place out in Orchid that he like gutted and turned it into like a recording studio in the house, and he lives by himself, I think.
Okay.
And it's like, it just looks like the coolest little music sanctuary.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
But he came over and drummed on this whole album. Every drum on this album is by Max.
Oh, nice.
And when he was leaving, he accidentally knocked over his crash cymbal, and it severed my microphone cord on the floor of the garage.
Oh, so is that the
And
cover?
So we took a picture of it because it was so cool, and we're like, this is the album cover. It's just a black and white cover with the microphone cord
Oh, dude,
severed.
I never heard that story. I know the cover, but I never knew that story.
He just bumped it, and it sliced it in half.
What are the odds on that, man?
I've never seen that happen before.
Dang.
And then in the 4 Horsemen, it's him drumming. He's just kind of pounding the tom drum.
Yeah.
And there's one part right towards the end where you hear my dog bark at him.
Okay.
Because she hated drums. And so anytime we would play the drums, she would just bark and bark and bark. And that time she had stayed in the house the whole day. And right at the end, she came out and barked one time. And his drums had so much reverb on them that when she barked, it was like... and so I left it in there. If you listen close for that,
I'll have to check
you can
that
hear
out.
Brandy barking.
That's awesome, man. So funny. All right, well, that's where we're going to stop.
Cool.
And we will pick up at Toonie Goldman next time.
Okay.
And which also has two of my all-time favorite songs.
Thank you so much for checking out this extra special bonus episode. I hope you enjoyed the music as well as the discussion. Please check back next week to hear part 2. And as always, please send me feedback at whycan'twetalkaboutthat@proton.me. Thanks!